You're listening to the Zetetic.News Cast on the Zetetic News Network with your hosts, Dave, and Xavier Diamant. Proceed by inquiry.
All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Zetetic News Cast, episode 17. It is January 14th, 2021, and we've got a very special guest joining us again, James Iredell, who was with us last time back in, was it October, right before the November election. And so we're very glad to have him here. And of course, the other host, Xavier Diamant. Hey, Xavier, how's it going?
Yeah, doing great.
And we're very excited, very pumped, not only to discuss everything that's happened since we last talked, James, but what we think is going to kind of happen in the next few days. We're right before the pivotal day of, inauguration, supposedly. So lots going on, lots to talk about. Before we jump into the sort of current events, a couple things I want to call out. Number one, we've got an official Telegram. And so if you want to contribute to the agendas of a Zetetic News Cast, please head over to Zetetic.News and look for the Telegram button. You can join by clicking that link, and you can drop memes, links, comments about any of our past shows, and anything you think we should be focusing on in these discussions. Also, since that's we created that, that's probably going to be sort of our consolidated forum for topical items of the day. So we'll be pulling agendas from that, and actually in this show I plan to sort of flip through our Telegram, which is called Zetetic News Sleuths. Highly enjoy it already. It's only been up a week, but it's been awesome. And a great platform. The other main topic of today has got to be censorship, right?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And Telegram's a good sort of alternative to some of the other messaging apps out there that, I'm sure, you'll be censored just G-chatting to your wife, any sort of dissent in not too long period of time. So that's probably the main development on the site. The other thing I'll mention is that we should be live streaming on 3 different platforms. This is our very first multicast. So I put out a video recently about how to get more engaged with ZNN and some of the things that we're planning for 2021. One of them is just getting live streaming sort of up and running. So right now, this is the first time we've attempted to live stream on DLive, YouTube, and the THETA edgecast all at once. And I think we are doing so successfully. So if you're listening out there, please, send us a chat, type us a message, ask us a question, whatever. I'm going to be monitoring that throughout the show. And this can be sort of an interactive type of experience. All right. This is going to be sort of a freelance, free ball, freewheeling type of episode. I hope it to be pretty conversational, but I do want to start with Thesaurus Thursday, and today's word, Thesaurus Thursday, is virus. Okay, because I've been learning a lot about viruses in the last, let's just say, 12 months. I've always washed my hands, of course, and I've had an inoculation or two in my lifetime. Not really looking too deeply into it. It was much earlier in my development as a person. Specifically, I remember lining up in PE class, getting some type of vaccine. Never liked it, but didn't think too much about the science behind it. And with all this COVID stuff, cerveza virus, it's caused me to sort of look further into it. And the etymology of virus is pretty recent, actually. It's its modern scientific use dates to the 1880s, and I have to think that that has to do with the germ theory of disease, which was developed in the 1880s by Louis Pasteur. And this is something I had seen bandied about, in the wake of all this COVID stuff, but something I have just recently delved into much more deeply, and that is the germ theory of disease. And what is a virus exactly? Well, the etymology is like a poisonous substance, which nobody debates exists, right? Poisonous substances, a slimy liquid, a potent juice, perhaps originally meaning to melt away or to flow.
That's interesting. Used
of foul or malodorous fluids, but with specialization in some languages to poisonous fluid.
Venom,
yeah. Poison, poisonous, sticky substance, bird lime, mistletoe, bird lime. Interesting etymology, but one that doesn't necessarily evidence what Pasteur talked about, which are these sort of discrete germs that exist out there and attack the body. And so that's what I've really been getting into. I emailed you about that, James, the germ theory of disease, and I was amazed to learn that Pasteur had this debate, this sort of like, he's a scientist, he's a chemist, a microbiologist or whatever. He's trying to put his theory out there and I guess save the world, from disease, this thing that kills human beings, right? But back then it was like between Pasteur and Bechamp, this discussion about the external versus the internal. And Bechamp, well, not only is Pasteur alleged to have plagiarized a lot of Bechamp's work, but it was also sort of inverted in the sense that Bechamp believed that what was most important when it came to disease and afflictions of the human body was the immune system and how you build health, which he said was through nutrition. And contrasting with Pasteur, also the founder of pasteurization, it's like all this external, microorganisms that are going to attack you. And so the way to protect yourself is in a very Western ideal, just kill them all. And that's why we see this obsession with vaccinations, with Clorox bleach, hand sanitizer, this obsession over cleanliness. And what was most fascinating to me is that Pasteur himself recanted his life's work on his deathbed. It was almost like a deathbed confession I read. And he basically said that Bernard or Bechamp was correct in that the germ is nothing. It's all about the terrain.
Right.
And the terrain is the
immune system.
The immune system, the flora of your body. Depending on the part of your body, you've got unique microorganisms living there in a homeostasis. And wow, like he recanted it, but the whole foundation of modern science and medicine is seemingly built upon the fraud of Pasteur that he admitted was a fraud.
Right, and even before Pasteur, you had Athanasius Kircher, the high order Jesuit, who basically seeded the concept of contagion in his work on after the plague back then. And he classified what would later be called viruses within, I think it was about 60 years after he published his investigation. And he referred to contagion as like these little worms. So he was this mystical kind of pestification of disease. And from that basis, Pasteur kind of picked that up and developed germ theory. But even before viruses were connected in terms of germs, the concept of a contagion or like a perpetual invisible threat of these little micropests constantly going around and devouring life, and you can't necessarily defeat them. They've been here from time immemorial, and they only get more advanced and mutate, and us hairless apes, we just can't do anything about it. We're gonna fall victim to the superior micro predator, and that goes back to the 17th century. So
not that long ago,
and it was conceived by a occult polymath who is affiliated with the upper rungs of the Catholic hierarchy.
It is interesting the fusion, or rather the bifurcation of science and religion.
Oh, and they're so related.
They're so related,
They're
especially
so
in the
related.
contemporary sense. I believe in science.
Absolutely.
Well, do you have any idea what you're saying when you say that? Like,
It's a mantra. You mentioned pasteurization to just say how things are inverted. Okay, they pasteurize milk, so they boiled it. The milk you drink in the store, it's milk juice. It's not real milk.
right.
And a lot of people, I'm not saying this is the only reason people have digestive problems like irritable bowel syndrome and things like that. But part of it is people aren't getting probiotics. They're not getting the good bacteria.
Right.
Why? Because they're drinking milk juice. I mean, they pasteurize orange juice. What does that do to it? It destroys anything that's good in it. They just lie.
Right.
You talk about modern medicine. Part of it is the virus. I mean, the immunizations obviously kicked in later and expanded and went on and on and on and on. A lot of this goes back towards the Flexner Report. I believe that was early 20th century. And they wanted to get away from homeopathy and homeopathic medicine.
Right.
Rockefeller Foundation funded that to basically set up modern medical schools and to push pharmaceutical drugs. Every pharmaceutical drug, except an antibiotic, only treats the symptoms and has side effects. Antibiotics treats what's really going on, but then destroys also the good bacteria. Right. So it's just, I mean, everything is just misrepresented. I have a friend who's a doctor, and I've told him, yet, how is it that so many doctors are just going along with this fraud with the PCR test, on. He goes, you give way too much credit. He goes, like anyone else, that they believe TV. It's just,
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I saw a good meme. It was like, how come COVID isn't, ravaging the Amish? And it's like, because they don't watch TV. They don't watch TV, so they're not infected by the virus. But, we might as well just get into the vaccine. And now it's rolling out, right? Thanks to Operation Warp Speed. Yeah, the bioweapon. But, it's... We're going to get into a lot, I think, about like the whole, the Trump issue, the involvement of InfoWars with Trump, and this apologism for Operation Warp Speed, and what it really means, because like I see some, like Alex Jones even sort of, I'm not apologizing for vaccines, but I'm this is the logic that Trump used to sort of justify the warp speed. And it's like, that's Machiavellianism,
right?
To suggest, oh, well, because people are so brainwashed to be pro-vaccine, we shall, speed one along and release it to get rid of the fear. And it's like, but if you're going to end up hurting and maiming people, is that as bad as just being honest with them and saying, like, hey, this plan to vaccinate you has to do with genocide and depopulation? And if you're just listening to us, head over to Zetetic.News Cast. We will have a video component of this. Of course, we are live streaming also. But I've got a video here of somebody who already took the Moderna vaccine. And they say, if you're considering this is like a Facebook post. Okay, so somebody's posting this themselves. If you're considering the vaccine for COVID, the Moderna, I would advise against it. I'm in bad shape. Every day getting worse, and I'm not getting help or answers. I'm scared to death, to say the least. And to find someone willing to attempt to figure this out hasn't been very successful. I hate to laugh, but I went to 2 hospitals today, walked out of deaconess and went to St. Vincent. No answers there either. They say, let's see a neurologist. Who knows when they can see me? Yesterday, my tongue began to spasm, and it hasn't quit. Today, my whole body has been convulsing all day. They sent me home. I'm posting 2 videos that are quite embarrassing if you know me, but I want you to see what's happening to me. Just please pray for me.
Gosh.
And I wonder if this is even available anymore on Facebook.
Probably not.
That's why we're republishing it, and just, getting a record of it. But you can see it. I mean, this lady's just straight up convulsing, and she's not the only one.
Oh, far from it. I mean, there's such a huge panoply of reactions.
Look at the tongue.
Yeah.
That is so disturbing.
Ugh. Mm.
And here's another one.
Hey everybody. First, I want to introduce myself, and my name is Sean Skelton, and I'm very real. And unfortunately, this is also very real. I didn't know what else to do other than to just come on live and show everybody what my body is going through at all wakening hours of my day. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody online and my friends and family that have reached out and prayed, because I think that's the only thing we have going for us right now is a prayer. And
I'm sorry to interrupt
On
her,
Monday-
but we could not take the vaccine.
Right.
Let's not take it and then pray.
Right. Right.
Oh, no, but
I
mean,
pray you don't take it.
Of course,
Right.
but I mean, she's already had.
I
mean, it's just-
understand. Yeah, she needs help.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I do find, though, that it's interesting that some of her, symptomology and her spasming, I have seen be alleviated by really high-quality CBD.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Best of the best, super concentrated stuff. And it helps Parkinson's
Right.
patients. This looks almost like Parkinson's-like
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
behaviorism.
I tell anyone, for anything to try, it's never going to hurt you. Oral vitamin C, most of that is just going to pass through your system, but you could do liposomal or intravenous, and liposomal, if it's done right, is even higher concentrations, so absorb more than intravenous, and it'll cost less. And they've seen some remarkable results with both intravenous and liposomal vitamin C.
How's that for an economy, a GDP booster? Is therapeutics to help people recover from the vaccine that we just spent $500 million on?
In my opinion, I mean, big pharma. Of course, I can't prove this. Just looking at the panoply, the game plan in the New World Order. Not only were these vaccines developed beforehand, but the pharmaceutical companies already developed drugs to treat what's going to go on. All the problems. They've already those drugs
It's
are already
just
developed.
a big money scam.
Giant racket.
Well, and to disable and kill the populace.
Right, and to demoralize while simultaneously rendering dependent that population. It's like a Stockholm syndrome attack, essentially.
It's insane. I mean, to step back and think about this objectively. Mm-hmm. You look at the CDC sites. Gentlemen, correct me. It's like the infectious fatality rate of COVID, if COVID was real, I don't believe it is. No. But if it was, the infectious fatality rate is what? If you're under 70 years old, was it like under 0.05%? It's tiny. So you look in the past, and Ron Paul said this back in March or April, I believe. We never shut down society over tuberculosis, which is highly infectious. So you look at the political response, and you look at the medical response to this. Why would you take an experimental vaccine for something that is virtually killing no one, even if it was real? Everything about this is insane. To me, it's very clear. The New World Order, they believe in technocracy, so they want to kill people methodically. They want to control. I mean, you can nuke a country. That's messy.
Right.
But they'll know how many people. Like, when this rolls out, they claim it'll be in the general populace will start in March. right now, and Jeff Berwick has said this, and I completely agree with him. There is no crisis. People have been in hospitals. I might have said this. I don't know if I said this last time I was on the air. A friend of mine who had worked in, let's just say, a major hospital part-time in Wake County. They had a tent outside set up. No one was ever in the tent. But people would drive by and say, that must be horrible with COVID. Look at that tent. It was a prop.
It's a psyop.
It was a psyop.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen if they roll the vaccine out? Right now, roughly, it's looking like it's great. Only 50% of the people say they're going to take, which is awesome, especially healthcare workers. That is awesome. It's so low. It should be even lower. But if they do roll this out, think about from March to June, the hospitals are going to be overflowing because of people like we just saw with real vaccine injuries.
Right.
And then the psyop will develop. It'll be like, look, these people, all these injuries that are similar, it's not due to COVID. It's due to a new mutant virus or a different virus. Right. And people that believe TV, that watch TV, are going to believe that.
Yep.
But I mean, we are going to have a real health crisis. Think 6 months from now, it is going to be deadly serious. The hospitals will be done.
Yeah.
And then people are going to start to die. It's
Listen,
like, look, I need an appendectomy. Sorry.
What they're doing already, the CDC pre-COVID with the childhood vaccination schedule, is no doubt going to result in a medical industrial complex GDP boom because of all the sucking of the wealth out of the middle class who can afford to pay for their kid to get all sorts of medical treatments as a result of this obscene
it's a bioweapon.
level of vaccination and then you
They're
see
bioweapons.
the programming. On our last episode we pulled up a clip. I think we were talking about Fauci, who said he was going to who vaccinated Santa Claus.
Yep.
And this was on CNN, which had a relationship with Sesame Street, and it was the ABCs of COVID-19 for kids.
Elmo's got a mask on.
No doubt.
I saw-
When is Elmo going to get vaccinated? I mean, it's pretty much right here, right? So if you're just listening, check us out, Zetetic.News. We got a video component. I've got a Zero Hedge post here about Disneyland becoming a mass vaccination super site. And this is the merging of Hollywood and the political agenda, right? And the popularization, the trendyization. It's like the mask thing. The vaccine thing is going to be just like the mask thing, and the way that they promote it. And going back to Pasteur and this germ theory thing versus the terrain theory, what you don't hear the public health officials say is anything about boosting your immune system. It would be one thing if they said we've got vaccinology, we've got disinfectants, in addition to fresh air, sunlight, vitamin D, iodine, salt, et cetera, nutrition. They don't say any of that. Exercise,
because they don't want to keep you healthy.
They don't. They actually want the opposite of that, and that's so transparently obvious.
They know the studies. I mean, vitamin D, and you should take it with some K, but they know what those studies are. I mean, they know you want to boost your immune system. I mean, take vitamin D and take a little K. Not to go down the rabbit trail, you talk about Disney. Walt Disney was allegedly a pedophile. You can't prove that. But you look at all the people, MK Ultra types, Britney Spears and all, went through Disney.
33rd degree Freemason.
Yeah. There you go.
How about his involvement with Wernher von Braun,
nice.
That's right.
The top of the NASA food chain, and their projection of the spacefaring civilization? It was very idyllic and whimsical, very Elysium-like. I don't know if you've seen that
No.
movie, but that was kind of what was sort of posited back in the 50s by Disney and together with Wernher von Braun. That was the vision, the grand vision of the Nazis, who took over our space agency. And now, we've got Space Force, which has been declared, I think as of December, one of the intelligence agencies now, the government. It's like number 18. Like, why do we even have 18 intelligence agencies? It's not too intelligent. Because if you need 18 of them.
Well, it's because we're in a state of perpetual war since World War II. But a lot of people think Disney, it was it would, that was really wholesome entertainment, and then it got corrupt. No, it's been corrupt from day one.
Day one.
Now it's more corrupt. It's more open as society has
Right.
degenerated. It's just more open.
Well, it's also the fiction on fiction thing. It's like Disneyland is clearly just pure fantasy milling, and it's also a fiction that going to. I mean, how about the irony of the entire park being closed, but 8,000 people a day, they say, can wait in line like they normally would at the amusement park to get the jab because that's the real ride.
Well, that's different. So I'm working on an article that I hope to publish on Zetetic.News, and it's going to be, I don't know what it'll be titled, but it'll be highlighting the phenomenon, which I like to call that's differentism, and it's just basic hypocrisy.
It's kind of the obverse of whataboutism.
It's like a cousin,
Yeah.
of whataboutism. But to me, it's always been obvious when somebody's just a basic hypocrite and they like don't apply the same standard that they apply to other people. They just say to themselves, "That's different."
Right.
Like that's like a great example is there's literally a quote from Hillary Clinton when she was asked about the, well, you're gonna believe all women, right? Who make rape allegations, right? Well, what about Juanita Broderick? What about all these other people who have alleged that your husband... And she literally said, well, that's different. And it's like, well,
Right.
how? They're women, right? You're supposed to believe them.
The other great example is with Black Lives Matter, another psyop to divide and distract us. You had one guy, saw a great clip on CNN. There's a black gentleman talking to, I think it was Don Lemon, who was black. He goes, let's talk about how many blacks get killed in Chicago by blacks. And Don Lemon said, no, that essentially he said that's different. He may not have used those words because you could have another organization. This organization is different. So in essence, he was saying, not all Black Lives matter.
Well, and this, I hope you include, and I can even give you some additional data on this in your article, but that's differentism. Actually goes back to the postmodernist Gilles Deleuze in his philosophical study of difference. So it's this notion that it's basically difference all the way down. That is the fundamental substrate of all being. It's irreducible. There's no sameness or categorical similitude that can be applied to the nature of difference. So difference is the only thing that our mind will always bump up against. So we can't conceive of anything that cannot simultaneously be seen as different. It's this very sophisticated, it's sophistry because it's postmodernism, but it uses semiotics and it uses these kind of like semantical techniques to convince you essentially that you can't conceive of sameness without difference, essentially.
I mean, it's the essence, and the mechanisms of it. It must be sophisticated, to fool a human being. As stupid as some people are, it's still difficult. We're very intelligent beings, creative beings, and to create a human to double think, that's like, it has to be comprehensive. And it seems like more transparent than ever before. Another good example is how all these leftists are now defending these huge corporations for banning quote unquote conservative voices because they're private companies. And it's like, well, when did you become a libertarian? I literally had a conversation with someone who was complaining about how PayPal had not resolved their dispute. They have an account and they were using it for business services and they did not resolve the dispute to their liking, and so PayPal sucked. And I was like, well, yeah, they do. They banned Alex Jones and just prevented his whole platform because why? Because of Sandy Hook. And they were like, well, they're a private company, they can do whatever they want. And it's like, well, how would you like it if I said that to you when you were complaining about your situation? Why is it, oh, because you don't like Alex Jones, you're okay with that? And that's differentism.
it's a lot of it is, there's a couple of things going on. A lot of it is your bias. Like you said, like if you do or don't like something. So Hillary says, well, that's different. It's like, okay, let's think this down. Let's break this down. You said trust all women's rape allegations. Well, are you saying one? I mean, if I was a reporter, of course, I'd never get the opportunity. I'd say, are you saying Juanita Broderick isn't a woman?
Right.
Are you saying your husband wasn't a man? So people have to question their presuppositions. Same thing in terms of theology. And that's when people either realize that they're wrong or they get extremely upset.
Right.
That they get very angry.
When you challenge the worldview, it's
absolutely
disturbing.
You question their presuppositions.
Well, it's also just evasive bracketing. It's basically like, ignore this person over here behind the curtain. Nothing to see here. Yeah.
I've literally experienced people just ignoring what I say,
right,
and acting almost if it wasn't said at all.
Yes, exactly.
It's amazing.
It either disturbs them or they can't interact with it.
Right.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
That's literally what. And I've even had someone say, "Well, I'm not educated enough on the subject to argue a point about what you're saying,
but I disagree with you.
But I still disagree." And it's like, well, why?
Why?
I've won the argument. I've convinced you, at least to this point, you don't have any counterpoints or evidence to suggest that what I'm saying is not true. So why the still dissent? And
it's just a flimsy attempt to basically say, look, I really don't want to go there because I lost. I mean,
well, it's the cognitive dissonance of like,
yeah.
I can't have my value system be disrupted by you. How dare you? I'm going to just disagree with you because I feel as if there's something going on with my thought process that I'm uncomfortable with, and let's just go to a different topic,
Right.
It's this sort of shutdown mechanism. I think we talked about it in the last episode too, where they'll just come up with sort of some flippant justification in their mind as to why you're making them feel a certain way.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's weaponized the motive.
It's kind of narcissistic in a way, because a narcissist will get mad at you for your reaction to them rather than for what you're actually saying. They'll just you'll react to something someone says and they'll get mad at you for reacting, but it's like you were the one who provided the stimulus which was reacted to. So
exactly.
The great thing when you talk about the private companies and what we're going through now is where the quote from like Richie from Boston, disclaimer, I wouldn't agree everything that he says.
Right.
He seems like he's a little dejected now, but he basically said when you started seeing people getting banned from YouTube, we were closer to the end, meaning closer to next major moves. And of course, it started again with Alex Jones. He was the 800-pound gorilla. They got rid of him, and now people like Rich from Boston are gone. The amazing Polly's gone, and it's continuing. Now they're getting every Facebook. We know when anything's gone, but when people talk about that, it's like, okay, well, I think it's a private company that can do that. The traditional libertarian argument is so incredibly strong. You have to realize, okay, think about what you're saying, because what happens in the future if the political system or social system changes? Would you like the fact that you and people that you respect, that they be banned? And then they could say something silly like that's different. But traditional libertarianism is beautiful because the non-aggressive principle, the state should only use force if through threat to property or life. And this idea that if a business can then shut someone down through something they say, that always comes back to bite you. Again, traditional, the way this country started a very, very long time ago, it was all about that. Jefferson.
Wait a minute. You're saying the country started from insurrection? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jefferson, you talked about there was some hypocrisy.
So what about
there.
those people who say this is the most un-American thing that's ever happened, walking into the Capitol?
Well, it's a double psyop because it was an insurrection.
Right.
So it's really misinformation.
Yeah,
it's a lot of ignorance.
Right.
I've never heard of an insurrection where the insurrectionists stand within the velvet ropes,
and they get let in by police who normally don't mind shooting people, but on that day just smile.
Yeah, it's like almost like if it, instead of a bunch of like disparate, diverse Trump supporting, Americans showed up? What if it was just the PLA army, the CCP? Would they have just stood down? I mean,
I think so. That day, none of their guns worked.
what guns did they
Right.
even have them? I mean, I know that one guy did because he shot Ashley Babbitt, but
Yeah.
this is what's so dangerous about all the censorship is they get to control the narrative of an event. And speaking of Alex Jones, I mean, it's amazing because he and InfoWars are really at the center. You've got Steve Pachunik, author of co-author of Tom Clancy novels and so on, who supposedly took down other governments and so on, saying that Alex Jones and InfoWars was chosen to lead essentially a white hat, they say an insurrection, a military coup, right? And Alex basically admitted, right, that Trump campaign, he worked with them to lead this march on the Capitol, to the Capitol. He qualifies, that there were these agent provocateurs that went 20 minutes even before they went there. That notwithstanding, I mean, it remains to be discussed, was he set up by Trump and the Trump campaign, or the Trump other ne'er-do-wells within Trump's circle? But regardless, he's still a very important figure because of the censorship and the fact that he was there. I think there was some effort to sort of label him as leading this insurrection and thus justifying the subsequent censorship that transpired. And the reason I think that's accurate is these two, and if you're just listening, I've got an article up on the video. Head over to Zetetic.News. This is two Duke University professors, one of public policy and the other one of I don't know, School of Government or whatever at Duke University. They want Joe Biden to create a misinformation commission.
Oh gosh.
Okay, and one of these guys,
It's a literal euphemism for a ministry of propaganda.
Philip Napoli,
Ministry of Truth.
So
Ministry
he
of
wrote
Truth,
this
right.
article in Wired, which he put on his Twitter, and it's called "The DC Riot is the Sandy Hook of the Disinformation Crisis." And he goes on to say, after the 2012 mass shooting, many ask, if this doesn't lead to change, can we ever expect change? We should be asking the same of the insurrection. And listen, he actually relabeled this title, because the original title was many have said, nothing has changed since Sandy Hook, and they're wrong. And the whole article is...
I saw that. That was the original title.
The whole
changed it.
He changed the title because the whole article is about how actually since Sandy Hook, a lot has changed, and he's bragging about how much progress they've made
Sure.
to censor and control narratives,
Right.
and come after the guns.
Right.
He's we've actually made great strides in preventing gun violence and so on and so forth. I'm doing air quotes right now, but
Right.
But this is a guy who, buys in whole hog to the mainstream Sandy Hook narrative, which had a whole lot of fucking weird stuff going on with it. But
More
it was
holes
also
than Swiss cheese.
But it was used to demonize. This was the thing that demonized Alex Jones and led to his banning and all that weird back and forth he had with Joe Rogan.
Did you? I don't want to go down this rabbit trail, but did you cover?
I'll
the
go down
trials?
any rabbit trail.
Just to save time, we got bigger fish to fry. But did you look at the? I didn't cover in detail the court cases with Alex Jones about Sandy Hook. What happened?
I didn't read all the transcripts, right? But I did watch some of the depositions. I'm familiar with the reporting that happened with Wolfgang Puck and his association with Wolfgang Puck. And I actually thought Alex did himself a disservice by distancing himself.
Right.
Wasn't it Wolfgang Halbig?
You're right.
Halbig.
Yeah.
Wolfgang Puck is
the
fucking
chef.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's different. But but did they prove in the court of law that kids actually died?
No, not at all. It was just a libel
Thanks.
suit, basically.
Oh,
It was Posner who was like, "How dare you suggest that my son didn't die?" But it's like,
there's no-
well,
no-
Well,
no
you've
proof.
caused me emotional harm
Right.
by
Right.
making these claims. And
Right.
if you look
That's
into what
mind-blowing.
Alex said, he
Right.
really didn't say that
Right.
nobody
Nobody.
died.
Right.
He had a guy on that asked a whole lot of good questions, and Alex was like,
Right.
dang, this looks really staged. I mean, but
But
people
even if he did,
expound on that.
but think
They-
about it, even if he did, I throw some videos maybe that they were spliced or whatever. But let's say he did. It goes back to the idea. Okay, he made that statement as a national radio show host. That's his opinion. Now, if you're going to say in a court of law that
Right.
you've liable, let's see the proof your kid's dead.
Yeah,
This is
exactly,
mind blowing.
exactly.
So you're positive. You're,
that's an open
you're,
shut
Xavier,
case.
Well,
Xavier,
but-
you're positive there's no proof that they in the court that anyone died. They never said there was. That's mind blowing.
No.
Yeah.
There was no
That's
no
mind-blowing.
forensic like genetic test proving that he was even his son.
And any death certificates,
Maybe a nominal one. Yeah, they did have a death certificate.
but no proof it was his son.
Well, and that was the whole outrage of, oh, how dare you insinuate I have to dig up my own son to show
Right.
you that he really died.
You don't have to. I'm sure he had tested his blood. I'm sure that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's what passed in the court.
Which is
yeah.
ludicrous.
I know.
I mean, they're sucking blood out of kids. The day you're born, they suck blood out of you.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
But, this guy talks about the DC riots, the Sandy Hook of the disinformation crisis. Does that mean that, like Sandy Hook, we're going to use this
100%.
DC riot to further clamp down on folks like Alex Jones and everybody associated with him? I mean, there was more than possibly a million people at this thing. And what is it even 1%? Who were conducting the illegal activities?
No.
So, man.
And if Trump supporters, I'm glad you mentioned that. If Trump supporters, I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for the Constitutional Party candidate, whoever that was. But if Trump supporters were violent with that many people, even with guns, it'd be all over. They would have killed
Right.
everyone in D.C.
Yeah, it's like what kind of insurrection happens where all of the government personnel can just easy peasy come back up and continue the process of what they were doing?
Right.
That's
Right.
literally the definition of not like.
It's Orwellian.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
totally Orwellian.
Y'all can go to InfoWars and other BitChute and other sites and figure out what. I mean, it's we don't even need to beat the dead horse of the Capitol riots. It's obviously staged. Is there anything you guys want to say about that? Because I really kind of want to talk about what's going to happen now.
Yeah, well,
Right.
that's the implication. This was obviously staged. People want to make this about Trump, and it's all about emotions. People identify then with Trump. Okay, he was charismatic and this or that, and this is the way the system works. So this is not, and the idea too of the impeachment, which is ludicrous. Think about what it's doing. They're saying what Trump was doing was divisive. That was the idiot who just got elected to Congress, Deborah Ross, who's militantly anti-gun, just got elected to Congress from our state, unfortunately. She said Trump should be impeached because he's divisive. And here you are impeaching a guy about to leave the White House. It's insane. This was all done to totally divide the country, and you see they're setting up the camps. In other words, not FEMA camps, that could come later, but they're doing this to totally demonize. They want blood in the streets. That is the point.
Period.
They want it. And
Full stop.
Yeah, eventually they will get it, and this is by doing it. I mean, Don Lemon said any Trump supporter, obviously well over 70 million people, they're equivalent to the KKK and Nazis and other stuff, and he doesn't get fired. I mean, we find it funny, but the fact is, certain people on the left, not all. I don't want to paint that broad. Right. Some of them believe that. Mm-hmm. Everything we're seeing, the banning of this is all designed to divide us. We are at a deeper level. The psyop. I don't know how close it'll be to that day when the dollar is worthless, but we are a lot closer to the end.
Yeah. No, I agree. Over the last 12 months, I've had many conversations with my wife about the incrementalism that's happening to take away our freedoms. And, bless her heart, there's still a little fragment of her that thinks maybe, it's still she's still a little confused why this isn't making sense. Why, if they're supposed to protect us, why are they doing this? And I'm like, you have to reorient your mind to understand they want a civil war. They want the upset. They want the radicalization. They want you to take action in a way that they decide and engineer, right? And so you're being directed, you're being pushed and cornered into a place where you're going to act in a way that they're hoping you to act.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I mentioned to you before off air, I have a friend, this is secondhand, and due to his line of work, he has contacts that are actively serving in the military and some that have retired, a good number of special forces. And they're not all saying the same things, but there's two common threads in what they're saying. Number one, they're saying they see and identify what's going on in the States now, and this is the United States having a color revolution. If you're not familiar with that phrase, color revolution,
It's not people of color.
Absolutely not.
It's not.
Absolutely
It's not a racist term.
Absolutely not. It's what the U.S. has done many, many times. They did it in Ukraine. The United States set up a non-governmental organization. It spent, I think, $2.5 billion, undermined the country, and literally illegally overthrew a legal, democratically elected government to put their own in. So these military guys are saying that. They say they're going to bring the government down. Our government's doing this to themselves. And they're also saying it's not going to end well. So there is going to be some type of martial law down the pike. They have to do it incrementally. If Trump stays in power, in my opinion, they're going very, very fast, because then left-wing people are going to start killing people that are Trump supporters.
Yeah.
If Biden goes in, we got more time.
Yep. So I think that's a good segue to a clip that Xavier shared with us on the Zetetic.News Sleuths Telegram. And it's, if you're not familiar with the term predictive programming, I'm not going to say you can learn much about it on Google anymore, but look into it. Predictive programming. We've covered a lot of instances on like The Simpsons where some information seems to have been dropped in episodes that later manifest in real life, and they're just so uncanny. It's like impossible that it's just coincidental. Yeah.
Homer Simpson versus New York. They will not show that episode in the States anymore. I bought the DVD to see it. There's so much about 9/11 in there.
Really?
Yeah.
We should do a screening sometime. Bring the DVD.
It's chilling. When you said episode, how much they said beforehand. Of course, Matt Groening, another high-level Freemason. It is absolutely chilling to see that episode.
Well, I'm getting a bit off track now, but because I want to play a clip from a video game that Xavier, a clip that Xavier sent me. But now that we're talking about it, the QAnon guy, who was pictured in the riots and whatnot, sitting on the podium. There's actually a meme circulating. What was the guy's name? He had the horns, and
he was an actor. He was exposed,
right?
And then he shut down. So, yeah, he was an actor. They have a photo with him and Giuliani. It's hilarious.
But there was a meme, and I'm struggling to find it right now, where he was side by side with a episode of The Simpsons, where there was a riot at the Capitol,
awesome.
And the dude who led it, who was at the front, he had the same tattoos.
I think that was photoshopped.
Oh, was it?
Because the original episode,
okay.
it's Crazy Willie.
Okay, right.
And he's like, he is bare chested,
right.
And he's acting crazy on top of near a statue. But I think they basically were like,
okay,
hey,
Hey, every once in a
Yeah,
while,
yeah.
you know, I'll get some misinformation. That's why I agree with the Duke professor. We need Biden to come in with a misinformation campaign and correct me. And clearly, you know, I would not be reporting such shit. But anyways,
But I mean, the track record of The Simpsons, just like
yeah,
doing
that notwithstanding,
complete open season commentary and depictions of
future events, which
actually happened,
Okay,
and you can
so,
demonstrate it.
This is I'm not familiar with this
Shattered
game, Shattered
Union.
Union. I'm
Yeah.
more into the Zelda and the Mario Kart type of stuff.
Right.
But no doubt, you know, look, video games, more money overall than Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
It's bigger than Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
And we're on the THETA network, right? THETA is aware of this. The esports community, it's billions and billions of dollars. So no doubt some of the predictive programming goes into games too, right?
Definitely.
Okay, and so this game, Shattered Union, is from 2005, and it, quote, predicts, at least in part, the scenario in which we currently live.
Right.
And to summarize, before I play the clip, it says, a very popular president loses the election suspiciously to a very unpopular president. The Supreme Court and the electoral system are next to the unpopular, and violence and chaos spread across the country with militias and insurgents showing up everywhere. Acts of crackdowns and massive surveillance laws by the central government are passed. And finally, on the day of the unpopular president's inauguration, a dirty bomb is detonated by anti-government groups, exploding in Washington, D.C., killing him and much of the country's political elite.
Mm-hmm.
Consequently, separatists appear everywhere, within Texas, California, the South, and New England, separating from the USA and starting a second U.S. Civil War. Be it mere coincidence or destiny or genuine work of prediction, it will remain here as an example.
Mm-hmm.
And the most fascinating thing is, in the game, the news network is CNN. It's CNN.
Are you guys controlled up?
Clearly.
Yeah, well,
I'm with Q.
Yeah.
I'm with Q. All right, I'm going to play this.
Revolution of the Method Bros.
The U.S. Congress. Following a disputed election and a tie vote, the U.S. Congress installs the most unpopular president in U.S. history as David Jefferson Adams becomes the 44th president of the United States. Shortly after the election, increased unrest, rioting, and a growing number of militias have given rise to ever-increasing domestic terrorism. In response, the president invokes the Homeland Security Act and declares martial law on the West Coast and other areas of the country. Though highly contested, a Supreme Court ruling sidesteps the electoral process, disqualifying popular presidential candidates in several states. Public outrage explodes when a sham election leads to incumbent David Adams accepting a second term in office. During the 57th Inauguration Day ceremonies, Washington, D.C. is struck by a low-yield nuclear weapon, killing David Adams and most of the U.S. Congress. The destruction of Washington, D.C. effectively breaks the chain of succession, sending the nation into chaos. In an emergency vote, the European Union deploys peacekeepers in the greater D.C. area to secure international interests. With separatist sentiment rising, California's governor declares home rule and secedes from the Union. Texas follows quickly and declares sovereignty, taking neighboring states with them and forming the Republic of Texas. Now, once United States of America lie in ruin. The time for words has passed, and a second American Civil War now erupts as 7 factions wage war across the land. They battle one another to reclaim a nation, to restore peace, to rebuild this shattered union.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that qualifies as certainly revelation of the method there.
What was the plot again? What would they say happened?
That they a popular president ascends to power, and then an unpopular president takes the election in an obviously suspicious way, and then there's a mass detonation at the Capitol building on the inauguration day, and that just plummets the entire country into martial law.
To kill the guy that won suspiciously.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, we're like a week away here from seeing if there's more efficacy to this trailer than we're letting.
I thought it was just interesting, if for no other reason than to stoke conversation about what y'all think is going to happen at the inauguration. Because we talked when you were on the last episode, James, about who we thought would, quote, win. Here we are on the 14th of January, and we still don't really know. We really don't.
Well,
okay, so the Congress certified the election, right? But he hasn't been inaugurated yet. So we're in I think it's a great time for an episode, by the way, to have this discussion as an anchor, as sort of a record of the sort of state of ambiguity that we're in, that we can look back on, posthumously, I guess, after the inauguration. So I'll just give you guys my take. I don't think I gave a prediction on the October episode we did, but I have said and was saying then that I thought Trump was going to win it. Okay. Since that time, obviously, all indications seem to point to him not winning it. James, I think you also thought he was going to win it, and he was going to, I don't know what your specific trajectory was for him to win it, but your overarching sort of gestalt was the establishment wants him to be in there because he puts the conservatives, the right, to sleep as a false populist leader. And I think there's a lot of validity to that, and I thought he was going to win it, not because the establishment necessarily was going to install him, although that has basically been admitted even by Alex Jones that, there's a right-wing faction, there's a left-wing faction, and the right-wing faction, put him in there, including the Rothschilds. They're connected to him, right? Okay. I was comfortable with that, but also the popular support. I don't see Biden flags. I see Trump flags. I see the people. Some people support Biden. Some, even in my family, I know for a fact support him. But it's for very, very, very ugly reasons. I would say the Trump supporters, they have more understandable reasons in my experience, right? So that was why I thought he was going to win. And the fact that the media was all saying he wasn't going to win, that was no different in 2016. It was totally against him too, and he still won. So I thought that. I'll say right now, I'm just going to, fortune favors the bold. I still think he's going to be inaugurated.
Really?
Yeah, I hope you're wrong. I predicted you're correct. You remember correctly. I did predict Trump. I did say it would be dragged out. So if I'm wrong, I was half right. I said it was going to go on a long, long time. Trump has controlled. A lot of the people that swing right don't want to hear this, but if Trump really wanted to end the COVID thing, he would rescind his executive order declaring a national emergency. Most of the governors are only empowered because the president declared a national emergency, so he can make it go away. Aside from the fact you already mentioned there, Dave, about Operation Warp Speed, we should never want to mention the military and vaccines in the same breath. No. In any case, I hope Trump doesn't prevail, as I said previously, for this reason. If Trump prevails, it's going to get extremely bad extremely quickly, because then we will see, there's always agent provocateurs, but we will see organic anger that's now been fueled by the corporate media against the right.
Here's why I think I'm right, though.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Biden was never supposed to have a physical inauguration. It was always a Zoom call with on the Chinese company Zoom, right? It was always a virtual inauguration to follow along with the Hollywood COVID virtual new normal that we're supposed to follow, right? So then why does he need 20,000 troops sleeping in the Capitol?
No, I think I know where you're going with that. So where's Biden going to be when he's coronated?
He could be anywhere.
He could be anywhere.
He's not saying it's like Dick Cheney after not in a safe, undisclosed location. They're
right.
Not saying, okay,
right.
That's hilarious.
And some have even said that to be the case with respect to Trump in his post-Capitol riot appearances. And we're talking about, listen, we're in a little studio right now. I mean, if I had a couple $100,000, I could put on a pretty convincing green screen and put you anywhere in the world.
Oh, no doubt.
You know,
I think
so. And people are, there's a lot of confusion because we've talked a lot about deep fake. Okay, they revealed to us in the last couple of years, hey, we can use AI to basically mine all the imagery that's available of you on the internet if there's enough of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like Joe Rogan, and basically fabricate. So where's Joe Biden going to be? My point is he doesn't need to be physically in Washington, D.C., so why is there 20,000 troops there?
Are you going with this angle?
The plausible deniability argument would say, well, look at what just happened. We have to be on high alert. We don't even know what these deranged Trump supporters are going to do when we fully authenticate the rightful winner of the election. So why not have 20,000?
Well, they're saying, I don't know if you're going with this angle.
Yeah.
They're saying not only that in light of the fall insurrection, but again now all of a sudden the FBI is saying, I don't know if they're saying credible intelligence, that there's going to be protests, all armed protests in the Capitol and every state capital, which is ridiculous. You can't get a gun into D.C. That's the easiest way to get killed is take a gun illegally into D.C., especially open carry. Easiest way to get arrested or killed on the spot. What I've heard, and I don't know if you're going with this with the troops, is that this was Trump's decision because he believes he's going to prevail, and that's to basically insulate him in D.C. from the backlash.
That is essentially, I would think if Trump was going to prevail, he's the type of ego who wants a real crowd. He doesn't want this virtual inauguration bullshit. That's been his pattern, going to places and having real people show up and adulate over him. He's into that.
I mean,
no doubt about it. So, and now that there has been an event, he has an actual, what's the word? Statutory justification for authorizing the force. Now, some are saying, well, all the Patriots, I hear the Patriots are going to show up, and basically prevent, with guns this time. And it's like, well, they didn't do that the first time. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's also some admission. A lot of people point to Trump's admission and his kind of slinking away and disassociating himself from his entire support base and saying, oh, what did y'all guys do? That's so horrible. This is not what I stand for. There is going to be a new administration, and there is going to be a peaceful transition of power, and our journey is only beginning. And it's kind of like, well, this gets into the whole dual presidency thesis, where just because he's not, in the ceremonial chambers of government, it doesn't mean he's not going to be able to exert huge influence over the populace.
Exactly. That's a good point. And within that, right, you've got the Q-tards saying,
right.
Well, he said our journey's just beginning, meaning he's only had one term. That's the first 4 years, and he sees himself continuing, right? The other thing is we're going to have a peaceful transition, right? He never says we're going to have a peaceful transition to Joe Biden.
To the Biden, right?
You know,
right.
so if he said that, that would be one thing, but he never said that. So, and then there's that instance of Pompeo, who's answering a question about the transition, and he laughs
like a month and a half ago,
and he's like, "Yeah, there's going to be a peaceful transition
to
the next Trump
presidency,
term,
right?
To the next Trump term."
Right.
So what does he know? Why is he? You know, I think it's a valid question. Like, he's confident, he's laughing, and so, you know it, and then, you know, so you talk about him slinking away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not saying this, but Pachunik is saying this on Alex Jones, that it's more of the Sun Tzu art of war. He's retreating so that his enemies can show their hand, to show themselves. And whether he's this, you know, where's the Wojak meme with the where's the super brain with the you know, the holocube in the middle,
right?
Or not. It is definitely true that his retreat and lack of, like, presence in the media has sort of, you know, people give themselves a rope to hang themselves, and a lot of these leftists are, like, really showing themselves to be who they are. We need to round up the children. Where's that motherfucker from PBS talking about putting children in the re-education camps?
At least he got fired.
At least he got fired.
I think he should be executed, because I don't believe in free speech. No, that's not true.
Right.
But here's an angle with that Trump saying that, when he made that statement, which is very interesting, when he said there will be I believe a peaceful and orderly transition.
Right.
I got an email from a friend, actually my friend's wife, and I made sure it was real. It wasn't from the Nevada state GOP. It was from a county GOP in Nevada, and the guy said, President Trump is going to remain in office. He said he's never conceded, along what you said. He just said there would be a peaceful and orderly transition. He went on to say other stuff was littered about, I don't know if that one said power would go out, but they say he will declare martial law, or he will, different flavor, he will invoke the Insurrection Act.
Sure.
Very interesting. The two former generals, Flynn and another one I can't remember, have publicly stated Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act.
Sure.
And to stay in power. To me, we're in uncharted territories. Here's another angle. Here's a completely another angle. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear Pennsylvania and I believe Wisconsin's case on the election after the 20th. So what would happen if the hologram Joe Biden, or whoever claims to be Joe Biden, the real man with dementia, whoever is then coronated, what happens 2 months later and they say, guess what? No one had a majority vote. I mean, we are living in insane times. That would never happen. In order for Trump to stay in power, I don't know if you gentlemen would want to pontificate. What has to happen? To me, I think something radical has to happen, like an EMP. They'd have to say Biden and Kamala were dead, Congress was wiped out, and Trump just happened to be in Nebraska or in Mar-a-Lago. I don't know. Something radical has to happen to keep him in office, and I still don't discount that.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility, and especially these days, pretty much anything is possible. With that being said, I think there's really, it seems like there's only a 5% chance. It seems like there's a 95% momentum going towards just coronating, the false administration, and, enacting this basically not so subtle communist agenda, and essentially trying to balkanize the entire United States through that mechanism, Maoist style.
This is the deal, though. I think I said this last time I was on the show. If you want to create the most chaos, what path do you take? If Trump is still in the White House after all these variety of people that are somewhat left or whatever believe, the anti-Trump. Even Biden said it's not about me. We just have to get Trump out of office. And in essence, he was saying, I suck, but he sucks more than me, which is the way most people vote. So think about how people, do they get more chaos on January 21st if Trump is in office or Biden? At this point, if Trump's in office, cities burn. If Biden's in office, the right isn't going to attack. There'll be some clownish efforts to make some right-wing people say, they were going to, Yeah, you'll send it. It's just like the assassination attempt with Whitmer in Michigan. If you guys follow that, it's like it was an FBI informant that said, "Hey, do you think it would be good to shoot the governor?"
Right.
And this is the way they always work. But the point is, that's what I'm saying. If the New World Order wants to go fast, Trump will be in office. If they want to go slow, put Biden.
So I'm going to continue to make the case. I'm going to put my feet in the sand here and say that he will be. I'm going to agree with Pachunik based on the fact that he's actually done what would be statutorily required, and then we see physically what is required to actually make that a reality. So if he were to declare the Insurrection Act, most of the patriot mythologists out there, they would be looking to him at the Alamo to make this big speech that we're having mass arrests. Remember when he had that moment with Hillary where you'd be in jail?
Several times. Lock her up.
Okay, where is she in jail yet?
No, she's not.
We don't really know.
No,
she's not because she's still on camera, right?
She's protected.
Yeah,
she's not going to jail.
He had that appearance at the Alamo. It was hotly anticipated because it was the first time he was seen since the Capitol riots, etc. What is required for him to declare the Insurrection Act? Statutorily, there's this very weird provision in the code, U.S. Code 254, 10 U.S. Code 254, proclamation to disperse. And it reads, whenever the president considers it necessary to use the militia or armed forces under this chapter, he shall, by proclamation, immediately order the insurgents to disperse and retire peaceably to their abodes within a limited time. Now, I look at the U.S. Code as kind of like the Bible in the sense that even the devil himself will quote scripture to support his own means. And you can find so much shit in the code that could mean this thing or that thing, and really it's all up for debate. Right. But I think this is like the prerequisite for a formal use of the Insurrection Act. Okay. So hang with me here. Okay. So then there's this video that came out after the Capitol riots. And this is what he said.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel, but go home and go home in peace.
Weird.
So that is kind of like a proclamation to disperse. I see that angle.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to finish the thought by saying it could also be just his way of trying to save face.
Definitely.
Alex Jones said years ago, he used to say, like Bob Barr, former Republican governor from Georgia, once CIA, always CIA. Pachanik, I feel the same way. Once CIA, always CIA. I know you were never in the CIA, so I trust you. How does Pachanik explain the dynamics? In other words, let's say Trump already invoked the Insurrection Act and it's not public. How does that make him stay president? What did Pachanik say? What are the mechanics of it?
Right.
How's that? How do you say
he literally said, and maybe I should go pull up the episode and play some Pachunik.
Just remember.
Maybe we take a break, but I mean, he literally said there's been this ongoing discussion, as far as I can remember, since 2011 about mass arrests. Okay, this whole idea that there's a white hat contingency of, yes, people in and formerly in and currently in and active, in the government, but also in the private sector who are, in essence, the white part of a yin yang,
fighting the system from the inside.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they're conducting operations, psychological, kinetic, and otherwise. And he literally said, he didn't go into this exorbitant detail, and he never does. He specifically says, because, these people speak in code. These Decepticon CIA types, they're talking. It's like a gang sign on the wall. They're trying to send a message, but not give themselves away at the same time.
Right.
And but he basically surmised. He's like, look, Alex, if I'm wrong on the 21st, I'm wrong, and you don't have to have me on your show anymore. But I'm telling you, he's going to be the president, and we've had a military coup, and there's going to be arrests. Biden's going to be arrested. He went that far. He said Biden's going to be arrested.
Yeah, he said that before. Like I said, I see that aspect. Right? I mean that's when they do it. Here's a take. Here's a take on what you said as far as the White Hats. Does Bechamp or either of you gentlemen have my theory about what happened in Tennessee with that NSA office that was disguised with AT&T? I think that was White Hats. I don't think that was Chinese. Did Bechamp say anything
about the whole RV?
Yeah, that wasn't
bomb in Nashville.
Did you see the video?
That news cycle went very much over my head, and it's now very well under the rug. And it deserves more investigation on my part for sure. I don't tune into Alex Jones like I used to,
right.
so
Good
I don't know if Pachunik was on to discuss that in the last months. But I mean, that was a huge fucking story.
This is
right?
why I think it was White Hats. When it happened with the RV, first off, their explanation is completely absurd.
Of course,
it's completely absurd. You had a guy, and whoever did it had allowed audio, so everyone in the area said there was a countdown. He says you have to leave. Something's going to happen or whatever. Or it might even said something's going to go off. It was blatant. So for like a half hour, people around there hearing this annoying thing saying, this is the countdown. So it goes off, and then it destroys this AT&T building, and they find out the way that the mainstream corporate prostitute media put it is like, he was a right-winger, and he was against 5G or something ridiculous like that. It turns out, mainstream media, it was, as it's been embedded, the NSA is embedded in the big telecoms. And then video came out. It could be fake. It appears real, of an energy weapon coming in. Doesn't make sense. There was the RV alone did. But the obvious thing they're lying about is they say this guy then died in the RV. It's like, okay, if I'm a so-called patriot or whatever, fill in the blank, and I'm doing this, and I'm warning people, why do I want to die in my RV?
Right.
It's asinine. I mean,
right.
it's just like the Whitmer.
Right.
It's like, hey guys, want to shoot the governor? Oh yeah. It's just what they say. It's just, but this is people believe this stuff. But in any case, it'd be interesting. I don't want to go down, but you didn't look at it. But to me, if there are white hats, that was a white hat attack.
Well, wasn't that a big data center?
Yeah.
That also housed or transmitted and integrated in some fashion the Dominion voting data?
It may or may not have. They say that, but the point is, when I hear NSA,
right,
and the thing, whoever did it, I think it was the good guys.
Gotcha. Well, so this is the debate right now, I think, on the internet is white hat, black hat, and red hat.
Red hat.
Who's red hat?
Red hat is easily turn-coded, ambiguous, sort of in-between actors that
I'll flip for the right price.
Yeah,
you got enough Bitcoin? I'm with you.
Exactly. So people who have done black hat deeds, if they're swayed by some, I would consider someone maybe even like Elon Musk to be like a red hat. So it's like he's clearly a corporate pawn.
I see him pure black.
Right.
He's a eugenicist.
Yeah, he definitely has that attribute, but at the same time, because he has those black hat attributes, he's able to signal some white hat things. Like his whole he tweeted about, there's only a lot of people who are not going to want the Silicon Valley tech giants to be the arbiters over our free speech.
Right. The way I interpret all that, little historical analogy, Thomas Jefferson said, some great things, and I would take Jefferson over Barack Hussein Obama, A.K. Barry Soetoro, Donald Trump, or anyone else in the 20th century. I flat out. You look at Jefferson. The Louisiana Purchase violated the Constitution.
Right.
So
sure
yeah, Musk said he'll say some decent things, but look at his actions.
Sure, and that is the thing that even the founders went against their own document when they became presidents.
Jefferson.
And Adams.
Yeah,
the Riot Act.
Yeah, writes the Declaration of Independence.
Never mind the fact that the Constitution was really just a contractual document between people at the time who were in, quote, offices of a government, and what relation that has to us in present day is something everybody should be asking right now.
Right.
As this is going on. And I'm very sympathetic to the writings of Lysander Spooner on that topic. He writes a book called Constitution of No Authority, basically picking apart the notion, just the idea, which is to use Xavier's term, an egregore.
Yes.
This idea of a social contract,
Mm-hmm.
So I like the Constitution in many ways because it's the claim that the government's making. They're coming to me, and if there is a contract, that's the contract. So let's talk about that. But if it goes too far, it gets to Declaration of Independence level. Do you have my consent to govern me? And that's where it's going, right? I think there is something very metaphysical and spiritual about that.
Well, there's a couple things. The idea with Spooner, he made a lot of valid points from what I understand, but it is that idea of a social contract with Rousseau that it's implicit. But when you look at the actual history, and I found this out, the Constitution was really a coup because it was illegally ratified. The Articles of Confederation, far more libertarian. No president. It was awesome. The states at that time, they understand the states were really sovereign. You had this idea of the Union was just like a loose confederation. That's why I said the Articles of Confederation. Right. No president. So it was a coup that they got the Constitution. They adopted it illegally. They met privately alone. They didn't release the notes for, I believe, 50 years. Mm-hmm. So
this is essentially the foundation of Lysander's point is you've got a few guys over here who agreed to something. They wrote a document. It's in a museum, but I didn't sign it. Where's my signature? Mm-hmm. And that's the true essence of sovereignty is the individual. And they try to sort of memorialize that, but I don't really need a document for that.
Well, right. The
personally.
The original intent is just like the Bible. You want to understand what did it mean when the audience originally understood it. So then, when you read the Constitution, it's very clear there weren't elastic clauses. It was limited because you read the debate between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. It was very clear. The reason the country got a Bill of Rights is because people like Patrick Henry, who also happened to be a Christian, said, "I don't trust this new general government." They didn't call it a central government. They never were federal. They called it general government, the federal government. Mm-hmm. I don't trust what you're creating is completely alien to what we've had. So he said, so he goes up, people like Hamilton, he's saying, I don't, it's not good. And then Hamilton said, what are you concerned of? He goes, how do I know that you're not going to infringe on the rights? He goes, it's in black and white. If it's not there, we can't do it. He goes, I don't trust you, and we got the Bill of Rights. So the Constitution was only ratified with the
Right.
promise of the Bill of Rights.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand
That's
this.
why it was an amendment.
Well, right. A lot of right-wing people don't even understand this, that the amendments don't give any powers. They're negative affirmations. All they
You're
do
right.
is
Right.
clarify what
It's-
the
right.
government can't
We'll
do.
agree only insofar as you respect X, Y, Z.
You could
Right.
you could repeal all of them. We have the same rights, but they don't respect it. You
Right.
had Nathan Rush. I think it was Nathan Rush at the time, was a medical doctor, patriot, and he said,
That's right.
I want an amendment for health freedom.
Benjamin Rush. Yeah.
Benjamin Rush, thank you. Benjamin, he said, I want an amendment for health freedom because the general government should never be involved in health. And they said, oh no, we don't.
Xavier,
That's right.
Xavier pulled that up
Yeah,
in
I
a
did.
previous episode.
it's-
He predicted this medical tyranny
Yeah.
that we're experiencing right now,
It's
and
like-
it blew my mind when he.
It ain't with the Constitution, right? It was compromised, and it's the whole idea of Rousseau in any government. The implied is it implicit with the social contract. You're there. I see that, but if it was obeyed, it'd be great. But obviously,
I
it's
agree.
not. It's
That's
not.
no. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing for what it is. If
But
it
it has
were
no force.
respected, if it were
Right.
respected,
It has no
I
force.
wouldn't be having to have this conversation about, keep your fucking social distance.
Of course.
Because you're abrogating my rights.
Of course.
That you enumerated.
Right.
You don't have authority. For your authority to be properly delegated, you have to respect the amendments to the Constitution, because it was only on that basis that the Constitution was ever ratified, which, again, was ratified by people who are long since dead and not even really related to me. So, that's the foundation of legitimate government, and so that's why it's so laughable when somebody who's not even a government official is going to come and say you need to wear a mask. It's like, I'm sorry, no,
You have no
I don't.
jurisdiction.
you have no jurisdiction.
There's a lot of implicit arguments in that are fallacious. A lot of it comes down to the idea of a collective right. So they create this boogeyman of the virus that doesn't exist. They say, well, for collective, for the good, for the greater good.
That's
for the collective
Dershowitz's
right.
whole
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah.
Is that you
Yeah.
don't have a right
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, he's a fascist. He's a
Total
good,
fascist.
that
good friend of
reminds
Jeffrey
me.
Epstein.
Right.
We
That's
posted this meme on our Instagram, and if you're just listening, check us out, Zetetic.News. We've got a video component here. I'm showing our Instagram, Zetetic_news_network. I posted this Ron Swanson character from Parks and Recreation about local government, and he's very, libertarian type guy or whatever. And it says, hey, where's your mask? He's like shopping in a home improvement store, and it's Ron Swanson, and he says, I know more than you, because he's not wearing one. And this guy, this kid basically comes on here, and the logic he used to sort of argue against what was being sort of represented in the meme here was shocking to me. He said, he basically said that I was taking away others' rights by not wearing a mask.
Right.
And I said,
yeah.
you're their right not to get infected.
Right.
And I'm just like, whoa, the mental gymnastics, the twister ideology that is required to arrive at that point.
Right.
It was a sort of window to me. And this is a younger person.
Mm-hmm.
I checked his
Right.
profile out. It's a younger person.
Right.
So that's truly frightening to me, and it's even more frightening when I go to the park and I see young kids running around with masks on.
Like 3-year-olds.
3-year-olds.
It's unconscionable.
It's like they come out of the womb now. Let's put a mask on them.
Right.
It's like, jeez.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't help. Everyone, anyone looks at it. Yeah, if the virus was real, it's a lot smaller than smoke.
Well,
just look at anyone. You just vape through a mask. It's no protection if the virus is real.
Well, and let's also listen to the logic, like, okay, we have to wear a mask because our breath is the vector by which it's transmitted.
Potentially.
Okay, well, then how come you got to get a 10-inch rod and jam it up someone's nose to be able to detect whether someone has it or not? Why can't they just breathe on a petri dish?
Very good point.
You said that when you were on our show last that you never take a vaccine. Never.
No.
I'm that way now. I'm never taking a COVID test.
Never.
Yeah.
Why would I? You know, it's like.
Yeah, I'm there now too. I wasn't. Now I'm there because it's not valid.
Yeah.
Right.
The test itself is not a diagnostic test. It's an experimental one.
And then the antibody test. Antibodies are broad. It's complete mythology to say, oh, well, you tested positive. To what? Antibodies are broad. It's like not this one antibody.
Exactly.
It's completely farcical.
Yeah, well, and because with the polymerase chain reaction, you can keep basically cycling it over and over and over and over again. You're going to find something.
And I've been watching some Carrie Mullis videos, if you can find them on YouTube anymore, and it's shocking how anti-medical establishment he is. It's almost like they wanted to like spit on his grave by using his invention to justify all this ridiculous medical idiocracy.
It was only really developed to look at the commonality of molecular structures across any given sample set of cells.
When this first broke, John Rappaport, who's excellent in a lot of areas, but especially health freedom, he immediately said, from day one, this is not a diagnostic test, guys.
Right.
It means nothing.
Right. Well, and then that goes back to the whole like discussion about, what is the substance of a virus anyway? And if we go from the terrain point of view, it is an expulsion of toxicity.
Right.
That the body generates from within itself as a solvent to get rid of toxicity, poison in the body. Right. So the original etymology of a virus is actually more biologically correct as to what's happening in the body than this, overwrite of Pasteur.
Yeah. Did you talk Koch's postulate? Yeah, it doesn't pass Koch's postulate.
Well, Pasteur's theory is incorrect because they can show it in a lab that when you expose certain, people to certain so-called pathogens, some get infected and some don't.
That's right.
Okay, so what's the distinguishing factor? If it's the microbe in question, a specific microbe that has this pathogenicity, then it would be consistent across the board. It would be consistent across the subjects.
Right.
Oh, but wait, I don't have any letters after my name. I didn't graduate from a programming center, a brainwashing center called a university. So I'm going to tell myself I can't read a peer-reviewed study. I can't read English and understand how this all works. I'm being facetious, of course. It's kind of transparent and obvious to me how it works, but
the doctors are out there. They've just been censored.
Sure.
Yeah, Europe,
absolutely.
More in Europe, but also in the States. I mean, they've been bold.
Not to diminish those folks at all, but I'm really sick and tired of not just like people in the medical profession, but just my fellow citizens telling themselves they can't learn anything by reading peer-reviewed medical studies and coming to their own conclusions. Do you need to expand your vocabulary? Yes. Will you come across words that you don't understand? Yes. But you don't need to go to a university to like figure that out and like come to some basic conclusions. And when we were protesting, and for the uninitiated, I've worked with both of these guys on the show in the anti-fluoride effort, and that's where I kind of learned a lot about how this thought process works. But some of the critics we would come across, pro-fluoride people, would be like, what do you know? You don't, you're not a dentist, you don't know anything about fluoride. And it's like, I don't fucking need to be a dentist to know about fluoride. And it's the same thing with COVID. Like,
that's right.
Oh, you're not an epidemiologist. Oh, I trust the microbiologist. And it's like, why? They're like,
it's a fallacy.
They're like looking through a microscope, literally almost like with blinders.
You have to. I mean, you have to deal with this yourself. Too many people just sit back and trust whoever the authorities are. But the point is, the authorities are not agreed. But they're not looking into it. They're not agreed. There is no science on this. I mean, it is zero. Masks are actually harmful. They know that. I mean, you suck in your CO2. Fauci even
the
had
saliva is enzymatic. It breaks down the fibers and
oral microbiome.
Fauci wrote a paper.
That's right.
Did you hear that? Fauci wrote a paper where he said during the Spanish flu epidemic, supposedly, a lot of it was exacerbated by people wearing masks. But it's not true now.
Magically.
Speaking of Fauci, I sent this to the Zetetic.News sleuths Telegram. It was one of the most disgusting displays of public health official adulation I think I've ever seen in my life.
And this is the thing: is the general populace has this learned helplessness, this learned ignorance that's been conditioned through the didactic, anti-pedagogy education system, which is it's really just a cookie cutter factory for consciousness, and they've gotten to this point where sycophantry pointed at the experts is a sign of your intelligence.
Right.
It's this Orwellian
it's how
override.
You get ahead.
Right.
It's how you figure things out.
Right.
You fillet Bill Nye.
If you don't genuflect before the altar of someone else's credential, you are an inferior being. You shouldn't even be addressed or recognized.
Look at these guys. Okay, if you're just a listener, you got to check this video component out because, man.
Guys, he's like gonna jump on in like 1 minute.
I know, he's almost here. I have the participant window open and I get to allow him to enter.
It's weird, I'm gonna be smiling because I'm just excited to see him.
Some nervous energy. He's a busy man. He's doing lots of world's 45 minutes early. Okay, ready? I'm admitting him right now. Here we go.
Hey, hi guys, how you doing?
Hi, Dr. Fauci.
Are they all gay?
You tell me, man.
I think so.
Is this guy blue?
Or they literally take halitosis pills.
Maybe both.
Maybe both.
Do Jews own 90% of the wealth?
I don't know.
I really don't. It depends on how you define the term.
Vatican has a good chunk.
That's right. Definitely.
Well, with that, man, I really got to take a whiz. So let's take a little break. I'm gonna put some music on.
Play this. Was that it? Was that the entire thing? Guys, and that's the end of it.
No, it was like a 15-minute video, which I have not watched.
personally like all of these are great. Yeah, it's a sativa. Lemon trees and hybrid. The Blue Dream is a sativa, and the Pineapple Express is a sativa. So they're all sativas.
This isn't as nice as, like, the wording isn't as big as
I'm getting shot. It would be funny.
Obviously, we're back, folks. Took a little break there and talking about what's going to happen over the next week or so. And central to that, I think, unquestionably now is InfoWars Alex Jones and this figure Steve Pachunik, who does have a history in the State Department, co-authors the Tom Clancy novels, which basically Revelation of the Method talk about how these special operations, subversive government manipulation tactics take place on the international scale. I mean, even Alex Jones boasts about his his history in taking down foreign governments, and now he's we're going to play a clip, and I don't know how much of this we'll listen to, maybe the whole clip, we'll see, but he literally said that Alex Jones and InfoWars was chosen even as far back as 9/11 as the sort of you might say Project Mockingbird media outlet by which there would be a military coup. And it's fascinating because there's all this impeachment talk about Trump conducting an insurrection. It almost is like confirmation of that there was an insurrection, but against who and by who is really the question. So anyways, we're just going to play Pachunik. We'll probably start and stop, as you guys want to have, comments and response, but hopefully this audio comes through clear for everybody. Here we go.
Alex, quiet down a bit. You've never been in a military coup. You do not understand what that means. You do not understand how quickly we work and how long we've been preparing for this. I kept saying to you months ago, this is a fascist system coming from the left, from Obama, from Brennan. When does a director of the CIA, who's a Catholic moron, from Fordham, screwed up in Saudi Arabia, becomes the deputy director of the CIA, was an analyst, and then brings forth another CIA operative, Obama? That's when I got my subpoena 10 years ago, and I had to go to court to explain what an idiot this man was and how the Attorney General of Miami was an idiot. In other words, my tolerance for ignorance and stupidity is not great. If I'm wrong, I will never appear on your show again. But if I'm right, I become one of your official paid commentators. You want that?
If you're right, I'll hire you and pay you. You can be on the show every day.
Right there. I mean, I give no credibility to Pachunik. He's painting this as left versus right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see, we know the same financial interests control both powers.
Okay, that may be true, but we're talking about what's going to happen in a few days.
No, but he's still giving this idea like the left and Trump. Alex Jones said it best years ago. Kennedy was the last real president. Kennedy was the last president that stood up to the New World Order. This is all theater. It's all theater.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. I think that.
But let's keep in mind the question: Trump or Biden?
How?
January 20th.
How? Right.
How? All right. Here we go.
I'm Alex Jones, your host. Please remember, we are listener supported and we sell great products. Highest quality air filters, highest quality water filters. People go get them. They go, wow, these are top of the line, tested against similar models for half the price. Wow, you really have the best stuff.
Hey, I do like his products. I got an Alexa Pure
and
right
so
there.
The Alexa Pure Breeze, the Alexa Pure water filtration, all that's discounted.
I don't think Super Mel Vitality has kept the pounds off Alex. He's getting kind of tubby.
Keeps my dick hard though.
Still kind of tubby.
Subsection of Infowars.com, where we have deals better than our distributor can give anybody else.
He's got man boobs.
We get around it, so it's already lower prices than anybody else, even when them has. PreparewithAlex.com on Saturday, it will have to go up to 2021 prices. They cannot do it anymore. It's going to go up a little bit. $850 off of your supply, and there's other big discounts with other food packages. PreparewithAlex.com, and then we've got.
Hey, don't be hating on me when I'm selling those lanyards, James.
Like Pollen Block, it's got the natural antihistamine. from the quail egg, especially.
He's got to fund
bread.
himself.
Different,
Give him a break.
Different
Along with the
context.
great products like Prostagard, Lung Cleanse, X2's back in stock for 50% off.
The iodine's fantastic.
And this is
Don't
how we fund the
deny that.
operation.
Then the
And while they're
iodine
trying to
is
take everybody's
actually a
banking and credit
good
cards away.
product.
They're trying to take ours away. They already took a lot of it away and make us pay higher rates.
I take a now
had to build our own
product.
infrastructure. I'm
Now,
not complaining, but
now
everybody else is going
organic
on here.
iodine.
We
Excellent.
have, I don't want to exaggerate,
You just don't want to support him.
Of course
$30
not.
million of infrastructure, equipment. That I mean, we got the uplinks, everything ourselves.
He's got
Probably not
the
very good.
sickest background studio. His studio is sweet.
Yeah, but watch him. Look at the curvizin that he's.
Yeah. No, I actually wanted to bring that up. It's almost like, is it a curvizin or is it a planar?
It looks like it's sort of a rounded dimensionality.
Yeah, you know the space, like
See,
the stars flying by like that. That is how it looked with the Tesla, so-called feed. You remember when they launched a Tesla, James, into
No, I didn't.
Elon?
No, didn't see it.
Oh yeah, it's a giant.
You didn't see that?
Nope.
Giant advertisement.
It's part of our intro.
Really? Oh, okay. I didn't know.
And it's like it's an obvious farce, but there's people who literally think that there's a dummy driver in a Tesla floating around a giant spinning space ball. You know, that they really think that it got launched up there. And
It's not in orbit. It's going out there.
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what? You know what?
It's
Alex,
going to Mars.
you know why Alex has that fancy background? You know why?
Why?
It keeps your focus off his eyes, and you can't see he's about to shift to a reptilian. That's why.
All right, here we go.
Tackle the fact that we are now officially in a military coup. What has happened and why I was part of it is because I've had a history of doing soft coups in the United States and what we call hard coups overseas, overthrowing regimes using the military. In this case, we had what we call a hard coup. It was initiated, as I said, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, by our cyber command using special forces. There were over 400 people from all parts of the intelligence community. I won't go into the names. But in effect now, we are about to arrest Pelosi. We're going to arrest Biden, Hunter Biden, Mitt Romney. You're talking about a whole list of individuals whom I identified on this show for years. When I said Gina Haspel has to go, she went. When I said Barr was a CIA operative, he went. When I told you Pence was not to be believed because he came out of a Democratic Catholic background, became an evangelical Christian, he left. So what's happening now is that we are literally in a military coup. That means, in effect, this country will watch the arrests that will come out of this. We have already arrested, and basically overseas, we have taken out the Pope, whom I've identified for over 30 years as a terrorist, who, when he was director of the Jesuits, had killed 3 of our American nuns, 2 of our Jesuits. We arrested a young man an older man from the State Department, Stefano Serini, who basically leaked all the information, used Leonardo, the sites going up to the satellites, which were controlled by the Vatican. We in turn intercepted all that information and were able to get, along with Nancy Pelosi's computer. By the way, there was no rioting in the Capitol. I happen to know 3 to 4 people here from my town who said it was very peaceful. The police took down the barriers. And in effect, what people don't know is we sent special forces operators in there to take Pelosi's computer. Now, where does this all fit in? Number one, I wrote about this 27 years ago on State of Emergency. If anybody wants to understand what the real coup is about, then go on my site and read State of Emergency or listen to the audiobook. Number two, and this is important for you, Alex, to understand. And
all right. I just want to discuss a couple things real quick. Number one, that whole laptop stolen thing definitely happened.
Yeah, MSM is trying to say it meant nothing. It was a presentation laptop. This is the deal, though. if you got elements within the NSA, you don't need I mean, this is stuff Ron Paul said. Everyone's under surveillance. I mean, it's just a matter of knowing the right assets. Why do you need a physical? Why do you need a physical laptop?
Right.
Well, I guess you could ask Edward Snowden. There are techniques which could potentially obfuscate. I mean, cybersecurity is an ever-evolving subject. So, we know that the NSA is pervasive, yes. But ask William Binney. I mean, there are ways around it that do sometimes involve physical media. I mean, for example, I remember with the WikiLeaks, William Binney talking about, the John Podesta emails and the DNC emails, all that was forensically determined to be something that came from a thumb drive because of the transfer speed. It could only have been through a USB, not over networks. So the idea that if it was hacked, it would have to be remotely, over network from somebody overseas, like potentially in Russia. And if that was the case, then the transfer speeds just couldn't have been what they were based on the metadata, which is stored on the file that was given to WikiLeaks, that all that information. Of course, that in and of itself can be obfuscated if you know what you're doing and can just edit the metadata. So who the hell knows at the end of the day, but I'm not going to exclude the idea that this didn't happen, or there might be not something behind it, just because the NSA is so pervasive. I mean, I'm not refuting that at all. Definitely. Why do you need it? But so it's staged. That is a theater term, right?
All right. Does Bechamp address later on in the interview, even if those arrests happened, how does Trump stay in power? Biden was illegally. If he was illegally, I mean, it's been electoral votes been certified. So Biden gets arrested.
I mean, I'm sure, like we talked about earlier with the statutory code, it's endless tomes of code, and we know Trump is surrounded by lawyers. That's how he is where he is all these lawyers. And that's the case on the other side too, by the way. I mean, it is truly a lawfare situation. Across the board. You see all this Stormy Daniels stuff, the sealed indictments, which are, of much discussion online.
I'll believe when they're unsealed.
Right.
That's obviously right. It's like, well, we found this out from a FOIA request, and it's like the fact that there's a FOIA request tells you everything you need to know, that you're only going to be told what they want to tell you.
Of course.
So yeah,
Right.
no, I totally see your point too, that this whole story, right? And maybe that's the it seems like a grand theater, right? Because
Absolutely.
Trump in his campaign said, Alex said that he was told Trump wants you, Alex Jones, to march to the Capitol. And, even though Alex predicted that there would be this staged event, he still did that thing, which is now regrettable for some reason. And Trump seemingly lost, but now I think it's like kind of the buzzer beater. It's the buzzer beater, the theater of the buzzer beater.
No, there's no doubt.
Don't you think it's like going to be like a swish, like when Trump gets inaugurated, under guard of all this military, then the right will celebrate,
and then
the state, basically protecting and installing this under a military coup, which is Steve Pachunik's own words.
Yeah, no, it's a color revolution.
He says we and they, and that's always like the counter to any sort of postulation that there's a conspiracy. They'll say, who's they? And it's like, well, obviously there's a fucking they. Obviously there's a they. But when Steve says it, it's good, right?
No,
because it's on InfoWars,
right.
And
no doubt. I'll reiterate: if Trump wins, it gets bad real fast because you're just going to see organic violence and murder of Trump supporters across. It's going to happen.
All right, let's keep watching here.
And all of the listeners, you were the method through which we were able to implement the coup. It wasn't when you used to ask me, how did I know what I was doing, or how could I predict it? The truth was, and still is, and by the way, you did an excellent interview with Mike Flynn. The truth is, you were the vehicle through which I was promoting the necessary actions that had to be accomplished. Think of that for a moment. You were the first entity as a banned video you identified 19 years ago when you came forth and I associated with you on 9/11. Subsequently, many generals in Special Forces and Cyber Command and NSA elsewhere understood that the wars that were created by Cheney, who will be under arrest, the coward that he was in the avoidance of going into the draft, by Mitt Romney, a Mormon, who will also be arrested for the corruption he committed with Bain Capital and elsewhere. He will probably be desanctified from the LDS. All of these elements came out through you, Alex Jones. The reason we never used the New York Times, we didn't do the Washington Post, we didn't do any of the others, we understood who controlled them. I knew about the Murdoch family from the day they came over in 1958. I never trusted Murdoch. I didn't trust his family. What people didn't know, unfortunately, is that Murdoch's mother's an Orthodox Jew, and he is a totally corrupt individual and a coward, along with his family, who brought in all of these stations and eventually kicked you and others off of it. So you were chosen as the method through which we could initiate a military coup.
Okay, well, we didn't talk about this beforehand, and I certainly don't want any type of... I went to have a peaceful demonstration to show our numbers to expose election fraud. So how does a bunch of people acting like idiots in the Capitol signify, that's General McInerney or whatever, saying guys got her laptop? Wouldn't you just dial in and grab the information digitally? I'm totally confused here.
You shouldn't be confused. Number one, the people who went there and were at the Capitol, the people I know went in peacefully. Those who were involved in taking something out, they were, I was told, special forces. This is not a particular general. I do not know which generals are involved, and the generals that I do know who are involved do not want me to speak about it again. What you are, again, Alex, let me explain it. We marked the computers. We marked the ballots. We marked everything that was done was a sting operation. Nothing has changed. And what was done, it was done by Trump, a businessman who understood the degree of corruption that existed among the Democrats. This isn't just something about the world control of America. This was the concept of a fascist state coming in with the notion of a coronavirus, which was not lethal, using Fauci, another Catholic who was trained by the Jesuits.
Dr. Pachenik, listen. I don't know what's going on here because you've come on the show like 19 years, given us a lot of good information. But, I mean, it looks like Trump's leaving in 7 days. You're saying this is a coup? I know they testified to the Supreme Court of Italy that they engaged in the fraud. I know you said the Vatican was involved weeks ago. Now it's in the news. Come back and talk to me like I'm 5 years old and explain all this. The article, Supreme Court of Italy, legal counsel testifies about 2020 election interference operation directed by U.S. officials. Votes flipped by the system from Trump to Biden. We'll talk about that when we come back on the other side. Infowars.com, newswars.com. Tomorrow's news today. Please stay with us. All right, Dr. Steve Pachenik is our guest. I'm Alex Jones, your host. And, Doc, quantify this for me. Your view, your perspective on this. How is it a successful military coup against the deep state, who we know is there and is corrupt, the globalist arm of the deep state, I guess, if Biden gets in 7 days? Or are you saying Trump's going to get in, there's about to be mass arrest? We don't have a lot of time here, like 150 hours. What are you saying is about to happen?
I'm about to say that Biden is not going to be the president of the United States. What I'm going to be saying is that there have been massive arrests, and what I'm saying in effect is that we are in martial law and we have a military coup, which simply means that there is going to be a large number of people who are going to be arrested, detained, and will be tried by military tribunal. The reason it's military is because we no longer trust our CIA, we no longer trust our politicians, we do not trust our governors, we do not trust the senior officials who are in Congress or in the Senate. It's as simple as that. I said it to you years ago. I told you exactly who was going to leave. They left. I wrote the book 27 years ago about a military coup happening in the United States, state of emergency. It's as simple as that, Alex. There is no globalism that's going to be involved. We have shut down Pakistan. We have shut down part of England. We have already
well, there is talk about the Pope stepping down.
Wait, whoa. Listen for a minute. The Pope was arrested well over a year ago. And the reason why he was arrested, Alex, is because on your show, I said this Pope was corrupt and had been involved with terrorist organizations 20 to 30 years ago. I was forbidden to take him out under Cyrus Vance.
Wait a minute, you're saying the Pope? Well, who's the guy we've seen traveling around the world in the last year?
You don't see anybody traveling around the world right now. You don't see anybody. Alex, get some of your nutraceuticals and understand that it's now. We're not talking about past years. We're not talking about past weeks. We're talking about the next few days and where we are right now. Now, I know you are not informed, and I'm telling you this. Either one of us is wrong, but I'm not wrong.
Well, let me say this. I mean, you can certainly get people thinking they're upside down when they're standing straight. I mean, you were the only guy that got the Camp David Accords through that nobody thought could happen. I mean, you've definitely done some psychological operations. But I'm just telling you, in 7 days, Bechamp, tell us who's going to be the president and what's about to happen.
7 days. Let me repeat it again, Jones. It's going to be Trump. It will not be Biden. Biden's people will be arrested. There will be people who will be arrested. Pelosi, Biden, Schumer. That's what's going to happen. And if I'm wrong, fine. Don't put me on your show. If I'm right, what else are you going to do? The point of fact is either you want to believe me or not. I don't particularly care what most people say or don't say. My job.
Doc, you've been on the show and given us a lot of good info over the years. You said that the East Coast and West Coast would collapse and everything would move to the South. I mean, you've said a lot of things that are true. I'm just sitting here watching this fiasco, and I see the left provocateuring right-wing groups for a bunch of craziness this weekend, and it doesn't look good to me. So I don't want to encourage people. Like you saw the Q guys going to the Capitol with zip ties. They thought they were on a secret mission to arrest people.
Alex, quiet down a bit. You've never been in a military coup. You do not understand what that means. You do not understand how quickly we work and how long we've been preparing for this. When I told you months ago that we were involved in this and we were taking over all the elements of the political system because we could not trust the Mitt Romneys, the governors, the senators, the judges. You're talking about when I said to you years ago, and you still don't remember, John Roberts, the Supreme Court justice, has been indicted. He was corrupt at the time that he made the Obama case into a tax. He then went to Malta. He was paid off. He will be arrested. You're talking about Obama's people, where I said repeatedly he was a CIA operative. There was nothing about him that was real. He was a homosexual who had been on drugs and everything.
Well, there's a lot of crazy stuff. You say be quiet, but I got to ask the questions here. Let's look at this. The Joint Chiefs of Staff put out a letter saying Biden will be president. Who is that from? What is that?
I don't know who the Joint Chiefs. That's not relevant to us because the real operational is not the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It's the military individuals who are involved. It's the CIA. It's other people involved.
Listen, I'm not lending credence to what you're saying, but having the Joint Chiefs go, it will be Biden, and the military must follow our orders, makes them sound weak. Why would they need to say that if there wasn't some internal battle going on?
Do you remember when I said to you, General Mattis will be thrown out? You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Was he thrown out?
Yeah, he was.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is there are different types of generals. There are those who are Secretary of State, like Cheney, who said this is treason. Then you got Liz Cheney, this incompetent fool from Wyoming, who said this is treason. Who is the biggest Benedict Arnold in the history of the 20th century that I've said to you for 19 years? The Cheney family is the equivalent of Benedict Arnold. He should have been arrested. He should have been executed for what he did all over the world. He sent our boys into war to Iraq and Afghanistan. I've had generals who are incompetent. Esper, did I tell you he would leave? He left, right? Did I tell you Mattis would leave? He left because he lied about what he did and who he was.
That they use this to get her laptop or whatever, according to you. Now, you did say stuff about Italy last time you were on, and a lot of stuff going on with that. What do you make of the Supreme Court hearing testimony that the Italian military was used with the German military, where they were counting the votes in the digital system, to go in and manipulate the servers to flip votes from Trump to Biden? What do you make of that?
What do I make of this? Just what I told you. We went after the Leonardo system, which came out of the Italian. There was a Foreign Service officer who was Italian Catholic and involved with the Italian Catholic Church. The Pope was involved. He was neutralized. It was sent up to Leonardo, which is the satellites. We picked it off of Leonardo and basically downloaded all of the information that was compromised, and basically proving that Biden was never elected legally. Biden will not be in the presidency. Kamala Harris will not be in the vice presidency. All of the appointments, including this new Secretary of Defense, who they think is wonderful, but I happen to know about him.
What about the new so-called CIA director? Well, let me say this. The one thing I know you're saying is true. The one thing I know you're saying is true is we are under martial law right now. It's not just in D.C.
That's correct. I've said it repeatedly. You're under martial law everywhere. The state of California.
Why do I see Black Hawk helicopters hovering over downtown Austin this morning?
Because you're sitting down in Austin, you're working very hard in your studio, and you're trying to sell vitamins. We don't send Black Hawk helicopters everywhere. This is not just special forces. These are units from all over the country. The reason why you don't see Trump, you kept on asking me, why is he absent? And I kept saying to you, this is Sun Tzu. Trump was brilliant. What he did was to allow all the Democrats and Republicans to reveal their underlying miscreant behavior, and then he was sent to command and control centers in Abilene, command and control centers in NORAD. There's no reason for him to come out. He wanted to do exactly what a brilliant strategist does, which is to allow everybody to reveal their pathological intention. I kept saying to you months ago, this is a fascist system coming from the left, from Obama, from Brennan. When does a director of the CIA, who's a Catholic moron, from Fordham, screwed up in Saudi Arabia, becomes the deputy director of the CIA, was an analyst, and then brings forth another CIA operative, Obama? That's when I got my subpoena 10 years ago, and I had to go to court to explain what an idiot this man was and how the Attorney General of Miami was an idiot. In other words, my tolerance for ignorance and stupidity is not great. I'm not saying that about you, but I'm saying very simply, if I'm wrong, so be it. But if I'm right, you're going to have to understand something about our country, and that you don't fully understand what it really is about. It's really about mercy.
Here's the deal. That's a nice back-end deal. I am an idiot at any levels. You know, that's what
James, you're shaking your head over there, and I just want to pull up this meme, a retarded Wojak meme. Oh gosh, hopefully you can see it if you're looking here. This is the Trump genius thesis. His brains are so big, he's playing chess with himself here. Lot to unpack there. But I think that's probably the best sort of summarization of Pachunik's revelations on InfoWars.
Well, he didn't very quickly. He did not give the mechanics. In other words, people are arrested. Biden was still president. And the big thing is there's a lot of he was CIA. He's admitted he's done color revolutions. Yeah, the guy can't be trusted. But what he's saying is very, very complex, because I think some of what he's saying is true, a lot is false. He's framing this as left versus right, which is ludicrous, and he's acting as if Trump is in command. Trump isn't in command. Trump was told to take Pence as his VP. Pence has been running the show. Pence has been running the show. It is very clear. Trump was the front man. He played with Twitter. Trump controls nothing.
You know, I wish he was here to hear you say that, because I don't know that he would disagree. He basically said before that he was installed.
Right.
Okay, and he can, as I talked about earlier, he uses the terms we and they, you know, as it pertains to Steve and his network of people who supposedly are a part of this broader white hat, you know, sort of military coup, to use his words, not mine, his words.
Well, he kind of pays lip service to some of the Jesuit Catholic connections, but the CIA itself is the reason why people call it Catholics in action. You know, he himself, I mean, he has a Polish Catholic background. So he himself could just be another disinfo agent by the CIA trying to stir the pot and get people to do, you know, unhinged things in the name of thinking that a certain agenda is playing out.
Well, it's interesting because Alex Jones predicted this whole scenario of patriots being co-opted into false flags, which were the pretenses of taking the guns, but then he was part of this whole event, which was ostensibly, you know, he paid for the stage space. He was, at his own admission, directed by Trump to do the march. He said he knew that there was something going to happen, and it did happen, but at the, you know, as he approached, he was like, oh, let's all pull back. So it is an interesting, regardless, it's all infotainment, you know, from this perspective, until, you know, people start coming to my house. It's something that we're all sort of watching unfold on this hologram, the TV, the screen.
The thing that's really disturbing once again is that Bechamp's not going there, is that he's acting as if playing to the right. Yeah, it's not a left-right conflict. It never was. Trump isn't running anything. Right. And if Trump does prevail through whatever means, it's going to be horrible. I mean, again, think about how the emotional level, people that believe TV, how are they going to react?
Well, they've already been up this roller coaster ride of a stolen election.
Yeah. Sure.
Right? Which nobody did. I mean, I don't debate it. I mean, it was, right? Like that. It's kind of open and shut case as far as I'm concerned. So those people, and even the people, Trump said it himself, even the other side knows that it was stolen, but they don't really care because they hate Trump so much because of the 4 years of trauma-based mind control of the Trump idiocracy, you know, like just the pervasive anti-Trump message is just incensing a certain segment of the population against the other segment who sees that consistent anti-Trump message as what it is, a psycho weapon. And they're like, no, like, you're being controlled, but they don't want to be told that. They don't want to be told that they're being controlled by the media, but they are. They obviously are. Actually, they both are. At the end of the day, they both are.
Yep.
And that's kind of where we're at, right?
Well,
it's a stalemate of stalemates of stalemates.
Well, there's the whole thesis, though, that Alex Jones himself is kind of an occult thespian, that he very well could be Bill Hicks.
Oh yes, that's the oldest conspiracy theory in the book.
Exactly. So that, you know, perhaps he is part of the occult thespian network in that he's a very high level operative. And if you look at some of the interconnections with him and Rogan to Anton LaVey's grandson,
and CIA and his family.
So, you know, there's a very distinct possibility there that he has been you want to talk about. It's interesting because he's talking about Dick Cheney being the ultimate Benedict Arnold, but if this occult thespian thesis is true, then actually Alex Jones is the biggest Benedict Arnold.
I mean, I don't want to go there, but Alex Jones he became a caricature of himself. He used to expose the left-right paradigm. You could look at the Obama deception extras, his interview with Aaron Russo, the last one. The interview with Aaron Russo, the last one. He clearly said the left-right paradigm totally exposed, said it was fake. Then when Trump came along, he was buddies with Roger Stone. I suspect he needed money because of his divorce. He didn't have a prenup first time. Then he got on the Trump train. The thing with Bechamp that to me is also really disturbing, apart from the results of Alex, the results of what would happen if Trump prevails, is this. A lot of what he's saying is just recycled Q stuff. How many years have they? There's going to be arrests. You're going to get up in the morning. Just stay home. People will be getting arrested. How long have we heard this?
Like I said earlier, like since at least 2011.
Right, it's been almost 10 years.
But now Steve Bechamp is saying it, and he's saying it, Dave, and you remember he's never been wrong.
Exactly.
Well, the cherry picked instances in which he's trying to justify his credibility, yes, it was correct. However, if you really excavate all those interviews, there were some misleading frames that led to such an event. Just because the answer's right on the math test doesn't mean the process whereby you acquired the answer can be replicated in a similar fashion with a similar operation.
Of course, not to mention morality when he's admitted he's taking down countries. How does that work out? Let's look at Chile when the CIA took out a leftist. Okay, they take out a leftist. They put in Augusto Pinochet, and then guess what happens? The CIA trains the secret police, and they start killing political enemies. So how has Mr. Bechamp's past worked out? How has that been moral?
Yeah, this is the hard sell for me. Is you're talking about a guy who made a career out of deception,
right?
And I'm supposed to now trust what I'm hearing right in the here and now. It's kind of like, we were talking offline, me and James, about military folks. Folks who've been in combat and have killed people. They have a bit of a weird ethic in terms of our presence overseas, in my experience anyways, in that they have to sort of sell themselves on the mission. And I understand it, right? Because you're dedicating yourself to something and you're lifting yourself from your home and your family to go do this thing. And so you have to sort of tell yourself a certain story about the justification of being over there. I mean, I saw Tim Kennedy talking about the people in the Capitol, and he made a good point about all of a sudden this outrage about soldiers sleeping on marble floors, and he's like, don't pretend like you're outraged now when you didn't give a shit when people are sleeping on dirt floors all over the world in our military, and I'm glad they are because they're protecting our freedom. And it's like, well, that's kind of like the interventionist pitch.
Well, how is our freedom being protected by being involved in other sovereign countries where we weren't invited?
Where we deny their freedom by invading them.
That's
right, and then kill innocents and destroy.
That's the World Police Force sort of pitch I'm talking about, and so it's definitely a hard sell.
It's kind of like the mask logic, though. It's like you end up harming yourself in order to present this facade that you're trying to protect others.
Well,
That's what the foreign wars do. They bleed the public trough dry, which actually harms us in the advertisement that we're protecting, innocence in another place. So it's this Masonic kind of occult mind control tactic.
It is a cult.
Yeah.
The isolation.
Absolutely.
The
forms of torture.
Form of torture. The branding.
Yeah.
The branding is a big thing in cults, right? Some sort of symbol, signet, sign, tattoo, etc. Yeah.
Here's mine.
And
Exactly.
Increased indelibility through exaggeration of stress. You know, I mean, people's immune system.
Also gaslighting.
Gaslighting, exactly, all over the media. You know, just these rampant theater of the absurd, hypocritical double standards applied to, you know, what constitutes a peaceful protest and what constitutes an insurrection. You know, I mean, that was played out before our eyes all of last year, and just the vicious Orwellian, really kind of hyper Orwellian. It's almost gotten past 1984.
Well, did you hear that Twitter? I know this is trending that, you know, Twitter had banned the hashtag 1984 hashtag 1984.
That's like a fractal. That's like a recursion
isn't it?
Of a,
and you know what their defense was? Well, we don't allow any number strings as hashtags. You can't do 111 as hashtag. You can't do 9/11. I doubt that, right? I think that's just a bold-faced lie, and most people are probably. I should probably go test it right now, you know. But
it's almost like one of these parallel universe things. Like, I could have sworn I've seen tweets from like 5 years ago with numbers.
9/11 hashtag 9/11, right? That seems like just a Jack Dorsey bullshit.
Yeah, and then maybe they've adjusted the algorithm to where you certainly can't do it, and it's hard to find posts where there were numbers that were hashtagged, because again, they could just summarily delete stuff whenever they want. And
Whitney Webb has had a lot of good information out there. I kind of see her as like the counterpart to James Corbett. They both do excellent research. Corbett does his videos with help from, West Brock, and she writes. But she picked all this up months back. You know, she had done about the Transition Integrity Project, high-level Democrats and Republicans game plan. This 4 different scenarios. But here's my question to you, gentlemen. What happens in the States, particularly under the Trump scenario, and in any scenario, if, like, let's say Biden is the chosen one, and they go with gun, they go with gun confiscation at one point,
right.
Or any type of massive disruption. What opinion do you have? What happens? We've got easily, off the top of my head, over 120 million firearms in the U.S. How does this play out?
Right. Okay. My thesis is that they're going to crash the economy.
They are.
Yeah, they're currently doing it, but we've only really seen the prelude with last March.
I mean, like when the stock market reflects real value.
Exactly. And then that's going to plummet people into absolute hysteria. And under those conditions, it will be ripe for further psychological trauma in the form of a false flag with gun grabs, and then people will be so freaked out they don't have any liquidity or money anymore that it just makes sense to do it Maoist style, to be like, oh, we will absolutely give you a stimulus check for every firearm that you turn in. I think that's the formula that they're going to go with.
Economic incentive for
disarmament.
Engineered desperation.
Engineered desperation, yeah.
I like the PSYOP part as far as trauma-based mind control. If that happens, then people are more susceptible. It's like, hey, I love that 45, but I can't eat it.
That's right.
I love that AR, but my kid's kind of hungry.
Right. That's why you got to learn how to use them to get food.
That's right.
Yeah.
But then, depends on how many guns you really have or need, It's probably better to have a couple guns and then a bunch of ammo for those guns, and then know how to take care of them, than it is to have a whole, cache. Although, you could argue, when if this dirty bomb goes off in DC, and then it's people need to sync up with those who are like-minded. There may be some like-minded people who just aren't on the ball and have their own gun yet. So maybe cache is a good idea.
Yeah.
The thing you say about ammo is really, really awesome, because
the more the merrier. I guess I should have said to begin with.
Ammo's awesome. Because in an economic situation, as things get bad, you can trade ammo.
Absolutely.
And it's divisible, right? You know, like
it's
one
divisible.
one bullet could you know, feed a family of 5 for a couple of weeks if you shoot an elk.
Right.
Right?
That's
One
right.
bullet.
That's right.
That's pretty cost-effective shopping, if you ask me.
That's right.
Any thoughts there about what happens to all the guns?
Say again?
Any thoughts about what would happen to all the guns if, in any scenario whereby we're in martial law or something where they come after them at one point? Any thoughts?
You know, I definitely think there's a lot of merit to the engineered desperation buyback scenario. I think that's the play.
Yeah.
They want to make it friendly.
Yeah.
They want to make it seem like you're doing your community a service.
Precisely.
And you're not going away empty-handed. You're getting something in return.
That's
it may
right.
even be a debit card that can be used at any of a number of stores.
McDonald's.
And actually McDonald's is a, you know, sponsor, and they're and Ronald McDonald House is a part of it. I mean, who knows? I'm not trying to slander anybody here. I'm just saying, yeah, I think that's the play. I'm sure Eric Holder will be a part of it.
Yeah.
It sounds like you would want to assassinate Ronald McDonald for your political goals. That's what it sounds like.
Can you kill a fictional character on Twitter? Can you kill a fictional character?
If you control TV, yes.
Exactly. You can do whatever you want. If you are one of the 6 people who control the entire media industrial complex. I mean, I definitely think that's the play. But as far as like the overall gun quotient in the country, I think we have been a gunslinging country for too long for this to happen on a like let's just say
Australia.
on Australian or UK level in a short period of time. It's going to take a long time. And hey, they are long-term planners, these folks, and we are sort of a anomaly in the world as far as gun ownership and proliferation goes. So I do see this becoming incrementally, you know, sort of like the way of cursive writing. You know, over time they will introduce increasing incremental roadblocks. I mean, one example of that is how they've decimated the mining. Okay, with COVID, right? You know, like mine production is down, you know, just supplies.
What's that?
Like mining, you know, like actual mining of raw materials. So like the lead for ammunition, it's hard to source that in the United States at a certain point. And if there was like a major conflict where, let's just say many bullets that have been manufactured already are flying and no longer usable, there isn't a capacity to replenish that. And so how many conflicts before the ammunition supply thing becomes so scarce that you can own a gun, but if you don't have the ammo to shoot it, it's a moot point.
Yeah.
And it's really the ammo game, you know.
Definitely.
That's why the smart ones are making their own ammo, probably getting into smelting of like aluminum cans and shit like that, you know, like really getting very innovative and creative with it. But you know, my brother, who is not a pro-gun guy, he's not like a gun owner. For whatever reason, he says he would never take a human life, even if that human life was threatening his family's life, which is a whole nother thing. But he's also he's an engineer, and he's like doesn't agree with gun control because it makes no sense. He's like, you know, like we talked about earlier with blockchain and Bitcoin, you can't uninvent it. He's like, okay, you put a regulation on guns, but if I really want to make one, I can mill it in my garage. It's just a projectile. It's the concept of pushing something through a tube real fast, you know,
Right.
like.
Right.
So I think that, you know, to your question about what will happen, if we get into that sort of scenario of conventional ammunition being extinguished and not having the capacity to replenish it, then you get into more guerrilla type projectiles in warfare, and
Right.
then you eventually arrive back at the bullets, because people will get good and they'll just make bullets themselves for the guns. And then, I mean, it depends on how long this conflict is going on. I hope we don't
I know.
play that all out.
Exactly. But at the same time, I do think that you will see a rise, or perhaps a Wild West return in vigilantism.
Yes.
And in decentralized guerrilla tactics.
What they're trying to do again, they're trying to provoke the right to
Into
attack,
doing,
and in
yeah.
general,
That's right.
general, the right isn't that gullible, as where the left is obviously easier to manipulate and will be
Correct.
more militant. I agree with what you said about guns. I think it will be incremental. The way I see it playing out is this, and again, it'll get worse if Trump wins. Cities will burn. You already have strict gun control on the East Coast, well, in particular, New York, New Jersey, FEMA region one. I don't know if one, but the same FEMA region, I think it's one, is New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, very dangerous places. Then you got California. California, they started gun control with Reagan. People were afraid of black guys, Black Panthers, and the real Black Panthers was a community group, and they were getting attacked, and they started open carrying rifles, and that scared a lot of people. In any case, I see them doing it incrementally with the FEMA regions and those maps. They'll lock the country down, basically section by section. There's other dynamics that come in as far as the buybacks, and I agree 100%. A gun is just an expensive paperweight without ammo. You can cut off ammo over time. A lot of people stockpile, but eventually it would be gone.
Right.
But the stupidest thing in the world, they're not dumb. New World Order isn't dumb. They're not going to go coast to coast, say tomorrow, 2 weeks, say, yeah, hand over your guns in. That would just invite a lot of people dying. No, they're going to do it, and the times it'll be overtime, and that's the way I think it goes.
Yeah.
It goes FEMA region, and that's how they do it.
Yeah, and not to jump too drastically to another topic, but this all ties together at a certain point. I was talking to a friend of mine who used to live here. He's originally from the UK, but he actually lived here and then moved back to the UK. And I connected with him recently. We eventually got to the COVID topic, and I was sort of bewildered by the fact that he thought the problem was that they should have had more stringent lockdowns to extinct. It was the pussy lockdowns that resulted in us arriving, and I'm like,
mind control.
I'm like, listen, dude, I know that you're gonna get that immunity passport so you can go see your football games in these different countries in Europe, but like, it's about mandatory vaccination. And he's like, well, I don't think we should go that far, but I am in favor of a very vigorous, strong vaccination program. And I'm like, well, you're going to get it because it's mandatory. It's going to be mandatory. That's what they're after. And it didn't matter, it's like, it doesn't matter whether you agree with that or not. Like, this is the plan, and you better just sort of get ready for that. Like, do you support that? And I guess the answer is yes, like, at the end of the day, and I just found that, endemic of like the same attitude with guns, like for people who are against it. It's like, well, should they come to your house and take it? Well, I don't really, with, guys who have guns, well, I don't really support that, and it's like, but that's where it ends up.
Well, then here's where the whole like Front Fanon, BLM, lumpen proletariat thing comes into play with the technological devices. Is you saw what happened to the lawyer, like super successful couple, the McCloskeys out there, or McCloskey, and he still got his rifle. He's a lawyer, multi-millionaire lawyer, and he still got his rifle confiscated.
Right. Yeah.
That was through a social pressure campaign.
Yeah.
through aggressive recording and framing tactics in the media. So you can use that kind of element as well to accelerate some of the confiscation.
They're doing it right now. I read in, I could have brought in, I read, I'm sure you gentlemen saw it, they said what happened, the stage event in D.C. was an armed assault. Who was armed?
Exactly.
Who was armed? Two really quick stories about the perception, and you talk about we're not Australia, but a lot of people would submit. A friend of mine went to get an AR on the coast, and he went in, he had his money, and he goes in, this is post-COVID, he doesn't have a mask on, the guy tells him he has to leave the store. The guy running the gun show had on "Don't Tread on Me" socks. And my friend tried to explain to him, it's like, do you realize the contradiction here? You're talking about rights. It's like, you have to leave. I was having lunch with some Christian friends, Bible-believing people. And people believe, Jesus is Lord. I do. Believe the Bible is true. Believe in the original intent of the scriptures. And they said, well, if Biden gets in, they're going to confiscate guns. And I said, very quickly, I said, I'm not handing my guns in. And the look on their faces. It's like I was from another planet. So some people, not everyone, but some Americans, you think about mass media, all these things. Quick Bernays quote that's beautiful. I read this is from propaganda. I read it myself. It's not an urban legend. This is from a book written in 1928. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our taste formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. Edward Bernays' book Propaganda, 1928, is called The Father of Public Relations. That book is still in print. So not everyone would acquiesce, but I realize how far apart I am from the general public when the psyop occurred in D.C. And to me, it's cartoonish, but people believe, again, it's an insurrection. Some people will hand in their guns. If it did happen, some people would say, well, that the government said I had to.
Right. It's just like the vaccine.
Yeah. They said I had to. Yeah.
Which, if you look at the root, just going back to the Thesaurus Thursday, it comes from vaca, which means cow, which is herd immunity.
Wow.
So vaccine is, you're literally cattle slavery.
Yes, wow. It wasn't that they got it from the cows because it was the cow pus or something they were blowing into someone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I have a pastor, a guy I respect, but I disagree with his ministry. He says from the pulpit, he goes, I don't like the idea of being told to get a vaccine, but he essentially said, but it happens, we'll have to do it.
Right.
Oh my God!
It's that brainless collectivism. Yeah.
Not me.
Mindless collectivism.
Not me.
Yeah. Yeah, on the last episode, I believe we played a clip from the UK where they had drive-through vaccinations, and it reminded me of the time I went to a goat husbandry class, and we I witnessed them vaccinate them on this, stand that they would have the goats walk up on. And
at the drive-through, could you get, a burger and shake, or?
Sure. You can watch a movie, too.
That's neat. I might do it then. I do it for free.
Hey, Disneyland.
Oh yeah.
Disneyland. You can get vaccinated and just enter virtual reality.
I'll do it for a free burger and fries. I'll do it. I'm in now. They flip me.
How hungry are you? You'll do it.
Extremely.
Yeah. Those burgers are good, man. They're engineered to be good. Well, we got actually some chats here on YouTube.
Wow. I almost feel important.
Almost. Well, one of the writers.
Oh, dude, Johnny Mnemonic. That I was just watching that.
Yeah.
Last week.
Eleanor Rigby's writing in.
Yeah.
She said, I don't know if I have the full clip. She says 48 minutes in reveals exactly what's happening now. Symptoms due to our exposure to the electronic energies malaffecting our bodies.
That's right. Great clip.
How Johnny Mnemonic predicted the world of internet 2021.
I gotta check that out.
And it's Keanu Reeves,
so
who of course is from Matrix. There is a clip here. Let me.
Right there.
Is this the one?
That's the one.
Or it says the only worthwhile part. Let me play this.
Well, what do you think about when you're alone?
I think I want to get out of this rattle. I want to get online. I need a computer.
Where'd you learn to do that?
I used to have a summer job, breaking and entering. I need a Sinologic 16, Sogo 7 data gloves, a GPL stealth module, one Verdine intelligent translator, Thompson iPhones.
Password enter. Welcome to BRT Online. Global net selected. What are you doing?
Making a long distance phone call. Beijing Hotel.
Beijing selected. Access denied. Access granted. Hotel Beijing selected. General account selected.
Fax charges 32571, 15 January 2021, 15 p.m. to 11:30 p.m.
He'll try to make a move. He'll use his connections on the net. Narrow the bandwidth. Go low rent.
Online translation.
Translator selected.
Shit. It's just an all-night coffee shop. We're sending the fax to a coffee shop here in Newark.
Local net selected.
Hold it.
Command terminated.
Come on. All the way back to Newark.
Copy world selected.
It's here.
Fax buffer selected.
Part of it's here in the buffer of their fax modem. Nothing but a name. Dr. Alka. Nothing came through. Shit!
Let's go, okay?
No, I'm gonna try something else. A guy called Strike. He runs a board in this sector, owes me a favor. Maybe he can find his doctor for me.
We locked on him. He's using a Sinologic 16 GPL stealth module. CrazyBot's computer shop, 5326 Sutton Plaza back room.
Initiate the virus.
Access denied.
Come on, let me in!
Access granted.
Get off my board!
You're too hot. You're a hit. Waiting to happen.
You owe me, Strike.
I don't owe you that much.
I can crash you from here, man. Wipe out your entire fucking board.
Johnny, don't. That's my livelihood.
Stop bullshitting me! I need to know what I'm holding, Strike. Why's the Yakuza after it? Who's Dr. Alcon?
All I know is you got a head full of pharmacon data, and they've hired the Yakuza to get it out.
Pharmacon?
Shit! They put a virus on it. Shit! Get out of here, man. I never really talked to Malcolm.
Well, that's not specifically the clip where he shows the, but it is like one of the climaxes of the movie, and it shows the AR, VR kind of, you know, synaptic relay, artificial reality.
When was that made?
It's 95.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not the clip.
It's the one that was further up. That one. Pretty sure that's.
Look, I gotta run.
Shut up. Give me that muscle relaxant over there, the red one.
It's NAS, right?
Yeah, the black shake. Like half the people on the planet. Let me tell you something so you get this straight. It's not my work that got her this way. My work is clean. Besides, you don't get this shit from amp jobs. That's just a myth.
So what does cause it?
What causes it? The world causes it. This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves. Technological fucking civilization. But we still have all this shit because we can't live without it. Let me do my work.
So there it is, that it suggests like radiative pneumatosis, like that this virus, there's like actually the premise of mnemonic is that there's this, you know, worldwide pandemic. So it's extremely like apropos for sure.
Jeff Berwick said, I didn't check it out, both Mad Max and I Am Legend were set in 2021.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
I hope that's a bad coincidence.
Same.
Well, playing these videos has gotten our stream shut down on YouTube.
Oh, of course.
So
that must break your heart.
That's okay. We're still live on THETA Edgecast and as well D Live, and we're recording as well. But yeah, they man, the digital rights management. I mean, the audio wasn't even that good.
No, it wasn't.
And I'm playing a video that's already on YouTube.
Right.
I'm playing a video that's already on YouTube, and
that's gay.
Not even.
It's already on YouTube.
That's niggerish.
That's completely.
It's just completely
that's cosmic gay.
Yeah, epic. But that's okay. That's fine. Yeah, I mean the AR thing was crazy too, because now we're all the VR thing seems totally 2022. I mean, you know, 2020 was, you know, getting everybody accustomed to the warm water. Hey, it's nice in here. It's not so bad, you know, working from home, unless you know, are in an industry that can't work from home.
Right.
I mean, like most stuff,
delivering
like
your goods to the grocery store,
or manufacturing them, or
serving other people,
right. Or all of that. But for those who can, we've got these VR helmets. That's where right. You can do 3D holographic telework, 24/7, and you won't even take it off after work, you know, to meet your colleagues in a simulated in-person meeting. You will just flip the channel from your virtual teleconference to Netflix.
Wow.
And enjoy that. You know, this is almost like a proto, what I saw in that first clip was like proto Ready Player One. Have you seen that, James?
No.
Ready Player One was a recent Steven Spielberg flick. You know what? Since we already got banned or our stream disconnected, let's just go ahead and play.
Go for the gold.
the trailer to Ready Player One, because at this point it's pretty apropos.
Right.
But it basically, I haven't watched it, but you get the gist of, in these trailers sometimes they just basically tell you the whole story, and then
Absolutely.
it's like, why do you even give them the money at the theater?
Right.
But
did you see Songbird?
I did not.
Oh, that's a good one to play.
After this, pull it up, Matt.
All right.
It's mind blowing.
Definitely, it's so in your face.
Here we go. Ready Player One.
My dad picked that name because it sounded like a superhero's alter ego, like Peter Parker or Bruce Banner. But he died when I was a kid. My mom too. And I ended up here. Sitting here in my tiny corner of nowhere. There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere. Except the oasis.
Can you feel this?
The Oasis was the brainchild of James Halliday.
Hello. If you're watching this, I'm dead. A hidden object, an Easter egg. The first person to find the egg will inherit $500 billion and total control of the Oasis itself.
Who is this Parzival, and how the hell is he winning?
Find him.
This isn't just a game. I'm talking about actual life and death stuff.
The Oasis.
The world's most important economic resource.
And this is nothing less than a war for control of the future.
Welcome to the rebellion, Wade.
Like many of you, I only came here to escape. But I found something much bigger than just myself. Are you willing to fight?
Help us save the Oasis.
So it truly is a mind control program in a mind control program in a mind control program fractal, because it fuses all of these pop culture manifestations of the Hollywood industrial complex, all these different characters and worlds, and it depicts a future reality of total economic destruction.
It didn't look pretty.
RV on top of RV on top of RV in these mega city, subcompact. You're just basically all you have is a bed to lie in. So why not put on this VR? And then welcome to the Resistance. And I know the audio is not clear. You can't, some videos just, you can't hear the audio for whatever reason. I still have to work those kinks out, but the gist is, and I haven't seen the film, but I get the gist, right? You're escaping the shithole you live in for real to this competitive, fantastical, imaginary, almost extraterrestrial experience that is also superimposed on the physical reality that you have, and it's more real than reality because you want it to be. And then it's like somehow we're in this journey to make a better world, and they have to overcome some sort of obstacles and save the world. Welcome to the Resistance. I mean, that's very attractive. Everybody wants to be a part of the resistance to whatever bad forces are, but it's all through this artificial lens which you put over your face.
Right.
Songbird is some great predictive in that trailer. Great.
Okay, Songbird trailer.
Awesome predictive programming.
Yeah, that one's pretty
blatant.
This one?
Yeah.
Good morning, Miss Garcia.
Good morning, sunshine. I miss you. I could kiss you right now.
Someday.
Curfew is now in effect. All unauthorized citizens must stay indoors.
Tensions rise as we enter the 213th week of lockdown.
A new reality emerges.
COVID-23 has mutated.
Beginning thermal scan. Thermal scan normal.
A horrifying new development
New
today.
data confirms the virus attacks the brain tissue.
Hey, whoa, I'm immune!
Worldwide death toll rises to over 110 million.
All infected Americans are being forced into quarantine camps.
Sarah. Sarah, what's going on?
Department of Sanitation.
Sarah, talk to me.
I think my neighbor has a fever.
It'll be so much easier if you just open the door. Mrs. Grant, you have visitors.
Sarah, please. Sarah, open that door.
Sarah, do not open that door.
Beginning thermal scan. 3, 2, 1. Anomaly detected. Armed guards will be arriving in 4 to 6 hours. You must not attempt to leave your home, or you will be shot on sight.
This is my message to you. I know you're in there.
They're coming. I have to let you go.
No. Sarah! Sarah!
Say goodbye to me.
Sarah, I'm not letting you give up.
This is my message to
Sometimes we have to do things we don't want to survive.
I'm trying to save the one person left in my life that matters to me.
I can't help you. What you're talking about is illegal.
every little thing. Gonna be alright. And remember, stay safe, sane, and sanitized.
Wow. Chilling.
It was after COVID-19, but there was so
Right.
much they put into that. The camps they threw in quick, which I'm sure you gentlemen have seen that.
Yep.
Yeah. It's all there. New York is saying they're gonna, if they do pass a law, it'll be forced. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much of that. Just H.G. Wells' open conspiracy, just in your face type. We call it entertainment, but it's really like it's imagistic trauma bonding. At the end of the day, it's priming your sensory apparatus and your thinking. It's like it's already presented the possible reality as fantasy to you, so that when an actual reality does come, you just have this fantastical response to it. You're essentially shock and awe.
Well, when they first developed motion pictures, it was experimental.
Right.
It was taking what you can observe about how you perceive motion and developing a way of, recreating that. And for the first audiences of motion pictures, they perceived it to be real. And it's kind of hard for us to imagine going into a dark room and watching a black and white motion picture, which was at that time a literal flip book projected through a high-powered light, essentially on this very, to us now, primitive film. And the first image reportedly that was, sort of, this is the story, the legend anyways, projected to an audience was simply a stationary picture of a train coming towards the camera. So to the person in the theater, it looked like the train was coming at them and they all freaked.
Right.
And so that to me was very impressive when I heard that story, as far as the degree to which we will be, tricked essentially by the motion pictures on the screen. And so we're in such a weird time now where there's also, there's crisis actors. We talked about Sandy Hook and the Capitol, and even this professor at Duke is tying those two things together, which to me is a revelation of the method, because, of course he doesn't agree with this, but if one is staged, the other is staged, and that comparison makes sense. So that's to me what he's not saying but saying. And so there's that. There are literally people who portray victims when they aren't. Like, look at the Las Vegas shooting, for example. But then there's CGI tricks and camera trickery and obfuscation and all of that. And so it's going to be already with the censorship and all of that, and the proliferation of software and so on that allows hoaxes and stuff to be created. It's going to be such a fog of war, confusing time right now.
I read the statement by Bernays, and what you're saying is spot on. Just think about how, with the technology, we're light years ahead of what they had then, and think about now. For years, I mean, some children watch TV from when they're out of the womb. They call it programming for a reason. So yeah, it is mind control. I mean, when it's 100%. Forget the flicker. I mean, just the content, apart from the technology, just the content. Watching it all the time. Catherine Albrecht said what you said, Xavier. Essentially, is that if you see an image, even if it's negative, you see something in a movie. She was using the illustration of the spiders. I might have said this before, from Minority Report. If you saw that movie, the spiders, where Tom Cruise was hiding out. Yeah, he was swapping out his eyes to escape the system. He was falsely accused, and the police would send these robot spiders to find them. And she goes, you see that, and it's negative, but once you see it, even though it was negative, you're more accepting of it. And you think about, again, horrible with children watching TV, then their whole lives, it's like, what's going on? And she also threw in, she said, those spiders, that is real technology just developed by DARPA.
Right. Well,
and actually, Rudolf Steiner also predicted that there would be arachnid-like automatons that would essentially, if we didn't keep in check the harmonic energy of technocracy, then we would essentially become enslaved by these sophisticated robots.
Well, it's all her work is good. I mean, she wrote Spy Ships, but she said something that stuck with me years ago. She didn't have a smartphone. She never would. She goes, and I researched this. The smartphone, by their own definition, it's a bridge or transitional technology to wearable tech. And the wearable tech will be transitional technology to the implantable brain chip, which they already have.
Yeah, it's normalization through acclimation.
They don't want you. They don't want it to leave your. It's like a third hand. They want it to be part of you.
Right.
And COVID is a giant step forward for that plan, because now they are making the bridge between the device and your health status.
Yep.
Right? And
already beta tested in China.
Even here in North Carolina, our Department of Health and Human Services, which, if anybody even just wants to go on Wikipedia, they can find out that our Health and Human Services Department, as it is in the government, it originated out of the War Research Service, which was a bio-warfare office created in a clandestine manner during World War I to develop chemical and biological weapons covertly. And then it got lumped into, rebranded, relabeled, like the Ministry of Defense, right? Ministry of Truth. the Health and Human Services Department. It's like the ultimate irony that it's like the Department of Education. Do they educate anybody? No.
That's like Child Protective Services originated
Patriot Act.
Well, Child Protective Services originated with the Eugenics Board, but then they changed the name. It's the idea. Well, yeah, we're gonna sterilize certain people because we don't want to reproduce, and then they never got rid of that apparatus, and they just rebranded. We'll call it Child Protective Services. We don't that eugenics stuff. That's not good. That's not popular anymore.
Right.
Right.
No.
The optics
that's
aren't
ancient
great.
history.
Yeah. Right.
Ancient history.
Oh yeah, we don't do that anymore because of the optics.
Right.
Sure. Oh yeah. No. It just changes the terminology and the rhetorical underpinning.
Well, think about what would happen. Not if the whole internet went down, but let's say if they did something to just make everyone's smartphones inoperable for a week or two. People would go. People would flip out.
Absolutely ape shit.
Yeah. My smartphone right now is in my car.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not using it.
Right. Yeah, but it would drive people crazy. The lives that they've built.
Suicides.
Online.
It'd be crazy.
Oh yeah. But you don't see any of those statistics reported because they don't further the agenda, which serves the elite, right? If you're just listening, head over to Zetetic.News. We got a video component. We're playing a video while just chatting about everything drones in advanced formations, and it's kind of like the robots that were dancing we played on the last episode from Boston Dynamics, which has been bought by Hyundai, by the way.
Right.
Our DARPA money now goes to Hyundai.
South Korea.
All this advanced technology. But anyways, this is all just PR, these fancy drone shows and whatnot to get everybody just sort of accustomed to the the new robot economy and the surveillance state, which is going to be increasingly pervasive and justified by perpetual COVID-19, COVID-23, COVID-24, COVID-25. We're coming up on a year now of where they said 2 weeks to slow the spread. What happened to that?
Bill Gates said, "I call this pandemic 1."
Right, exactly. He did say that.
Yesterday, the New York Times came out with an article that was like, "What's the future of coronavirus? Oh, it's just a pesky childhood infection. It'll just resemble the common cold."
Right, I had that article up earlier, but we didn't get a chance to connect on it. But yeah, I it reminds me of an article I saw before where it was like, in laboratory tests, children have been shown to carry the highest levels of coronavirus, and it's like, isn't that a good thing? Because most kids are fine,
right?
Like that shows me what not a big deal it is.
That's a great point to see the mind control. This hit me as much as I look at this stuff. It hit me like a ton of bricks. It was about, I don't know, a week or two ago, and it's just it's cartoonish to me. But I think it was WRL. They would give us a news report, and they say, now North Carolina has a grim statistic. I don't know what they said of 180,000 cases. It's like, 180,000, whatever it was, 180,000 cases, and how many people have died?
Right.
But,
they don't
we're
mention
at
that.
this grim milestone because I'm creating the reality of a grim milestone.
Right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah, it's totally fabricated, but
like they don't have a tracker for how many triple Big Macs people are taking, and like the deaths associated from heart disease.
They
from
will.
Fast food.
Hey, they will when we all get microchipped. Be patient.
Oh yeah, that is exactly.
Just wait.
Yeah.
They'll know.
I'm giving them too many good ideas.
And they'll know how much water you use when you flush the toilet. As a good citizen, when you go past your limit, you have to pay more money to flush the toilet.
Right. Well, and then it's you get the helmet that tracks your breath. And you better be really good at exercising because you'll be able to generate a cryptocurrency, and but you got to hold your breath the whole time, so you're not, the cryptocurrency isn't taxed too much,
right?
Based on your breath intake.
Well, my wife has noticed a trend of local news, CBS, ABC affiliates reporting on gun violence in the area, and it's crazy. Like, if you just watch the news, it seems like all the time people are just randomly getting shot, and it's not investigated. It's actually reported as not suspicious in some cases. And she's like,
"This is crazy.
What do you mean? It's not suspicious. Someone was found shot in a ditch. That's suspicious. Somebody was murdered here." And today there was a report that like we solved like 11%.
You know why? You know why that's not investigated? Because those people died of COVID.
Exactly.
Every death's a good death for the COVID
It's
narrative.
COVID.
Well, because everybody has coronavirus.
Yeah, you don't have to
and they've already
investigate
said
it.
everybody's going to get it at some
Right,
point.
you don't
And it's
have-
like,
Right.
well, then why are we locked down? If everybody's going to get it, who cares?
If a meteor takes out a third of the United States,
That's
it's
right.
COVID.
Exactly.
Well, it's an alien virus, right?
If the Galactic Federation nukes us, it's COVID.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, they I think the FBI rate of solving murders such as this is like 33%, and that's what Durham is comparing itself to. It's like 33% isn't even that good.
No.
33%, and this is all you guys have to do is solve murders and direct traffic. I mean, give me a break. You shouldn't be pulling people over if your solve rate is 11%. You shouldn't be pulling people over for speeding.
Do you think this is psyop to push gun control?
Yeah, definitely at the local level, it's to hype up
Definitely.
additional. Yeah. Oh, they always call it gun violence. How about murder? How about how about violence?
Right.
How about just violence? Why do we even put homicide in a special category as gun violence?
There's a lot of car violence out there.
Definitely.
There's a lot of car violence.
You know, and
we need to ban cars.
Well,
right.
This gets into a subject, a different kind of subject with regard to all the censorship, right? Because now Parler is responsible for people who comment on their platform and so-call it, are going to be violent or whatever. And it's a hot debate, because Amazon's like, oh, we're not going to host this because it's violent. But what is violence, and what is planning violence or coordinating violence?
And what does Amazon sell? What movies?
Right.
What movies? The hypocrisy is intense.
It's crazy. I kind of lost my train of thought, but
well, yeah. Who gets to define and demarcate violence? Is it just the sanctioned, approved lumpen proletariat, or is it the Praetorian Guard of the police,
Oh, well, now I'm back on the train here. Parler. Why is Parler responsible for someone else's criminal act?
Not at all.
It's kind of like saying, if I use my Chevrolet to crash through my neighbor's living room and kill him in a premeditated manner, then
Chevrolet's
General
fault.
Motors should be responsible because I used their vehicle, their product to commit a violent act.
I've always thought that.
Always, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
it makes so much sense, right? It's absurd.
Meanwhile, the aluminum fertilizer industries can sell a toxic byproduct, and then through in transit, it magically turns into a dental health product.
Well, that reminds me of that new individual who appointed by Biden, even though he hasn't been inaugurated yet, for, I don't know, what was it, diversity committee or whatever. This lady who said that, people with melanated skin have a higher spiritual capacity.
Right, that's right.
Because
That's right.
the whites are have a calcified pineal gland, and it's kind of like there's a bit of truth to the calcification of the pineal gland, but
It's not because of their lack of neuromelanin.
guarantee you there's some blacks in this country with calcified pineal gland, all the soda and
Sure.
Fluoride, drinking water, so it has nothing to do with the melanation.
Right. Well, and it's also neuromelanin. I mean, the extent to which it can be isolated and traced to intelligence is entirely speculative.
even if that was true,
Yeah.
if you go down that path, we go to say, well, like, it must be that the people that are blacker got more spiritual. The lighter skinned black people don't have as much spirituality.
Right.
Exactly.
No,
Well, there is that kind of a
hierarchy.
A hierarchy within the strata of color. Absolutely.
It's like
but
coloristic.
She also
reduction.
said, it's responsible for the cultural differences between whites and blacks, and it's like, well, what do you mean by that? But so can we talk about like all of the inventions of Tesla?
What's she saying? Is she saying
how do you
like,
measure that?
Is she saying white people are responsible for blacks like wearing Nikes or something? I mean, what does she mean?
It remains to be seen. I guess we'll find out after the 20th. So
after the coronation.
The coronation.
But remember, Steve Bechamp said. He said what's going to happen without giving details.
I guess we'll find out if he'll be a paid correspondent on InfoWars or he will just... I mean, honestly, if he never shows up, we'll probably just move on to the next topic and forget it ever happened.
Or maybe Steve and Alex will be arrested too. We don't know.
That's for real. A for real possibility. Well, let's wrap this one up. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I need to get your THETA wallet addresses so I can send you some more T-Fuel. If you're still listening, check us out at Zetetic.News. You can find us at DLive, YouTube for now, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us on Google and Apple podcast platforms. We do have a mirror site on BitTube. We have some presence on Gab. And, of course, we also have an RSS feed. But I really want to direct you to our Telegram. That is our official sort of consolidated consciousness, train of thought, links, memes, comments about our broadcasts. Drop them there. We will form our future agendas based on the material that is aggregated there. It's been a pleasure, you guys.
Excellent.
We will probably do another cast after the 20th, and we'll find out, be able to sort of reflect on what we talked about today and the last episode. And I'm really looking forward to that. Any parting comments from you, gentlemen?
We'll all be able to talk about it somewhere, unless we get nuked by the Galactic Federation or something. I mean, something might happen. You don't know.
Hey, the NASA balloon platforms could be deadly. Depends on what they got mounted up there.
Directed energy weapons.
We might absorb that first strike. It's first nuclear strike. Maybe the Chi-Coms and or Russia hit us.
Weapons are out there. Before Esper got relinquished or relieved of his duty, he was talking about killer satellites owned by Russia and China. So
China.
Oh yeah, those like super high altitude drones and balloons. Yeah.
Any parting words, Xavier, before I cut this stream off?
No, just in this ominous time, it's refreshing to have a platform where we can just sort of, have a conversation that, is not curtailed
and not get arrested like next month.
Yeah, this will be restreaming on THETA Edgecast hopefully in the next couple days. If you're watching on that platform, don't forget to donate T-Fuel. Cheers.